Welcome to Retro Groove. Enjoy your voyage. Retro Groove. Retro Groove. Retro Groove. Retro Groove.
Howdy and welcome to Retro Groove. I'm Adam C.
And I'm Liam D.
And this is a podcast where we talk about music that stands the test of time, the albums and artists that have shaped and reshaped the sonic landscape, as well as covering new music from those artists. This is Valentine's weekend, so hope you have, made your reservations, bought your couple dozen roses, whatever you got to do. And if you do not have a Valentine, I hope you have something really dope planned. And you can always do, I am, other than my daughters, I'm Valentine-less this year. And I'm probably going to do a Valentine's Day stream of some kind. And I'll try to figure out what game fits best. Maybe I'll play a dating simulator.
You should definitely do it. I was going to say, do like Fire Emblem that has like tea parties where you're trying to woo knights. Yeah. Some kind of dating sim would be great.
I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, so today we're going to, on that note, talk about some of our favorite love songs and some just kind of classic love songs over the years. And also maybe throw in a breakup / I hate my ex / FU song, because those are always fun. Or cathartic, or both. They can be both. But Liam, what's going on with you?
I'm good. Gearing up for my daughter's birthday. She's turning 7.
Yes.
We're doing something at like a trampoline park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like we've actually never been, like we've been to it, but we've never jumped around in it. She's been at places like that before, but we were looking at places to have a party, and she was just dead set on playing dodgeball. She likes American Ninja Warrior, so like, she wants to do that kind of stuff. So that's next week. Just running around, like pre-ordering stuff, figuring out presents, doing the guest list, dude. Like, guest list is so weird because I don't know these kids, and like
I know
they're 6-year-olds, so it's not like I don't really know their parents. They're just in first grade, so I barely know any of them.
It can be awkward.
And she wanted to invite like 20 people to this thing. And I'm like, yeah, sure, you can invite that, assuming that only a few would come. And we've gotten like 12 or 13 RSVPs now. So it's going to be a jam. But then there's like 8 or 9 people. We're a week out where I haven't heard back. And so like,
and it's rough because most of those kinds of places,
you got to give a number.
Yeah. And they charge you for that number, whether that many people show up or not. So
exactly.
That's very frustrating.
Yeah, but, so I'm like, I need like a cutoff date, I don't know. I got to figure it out.
And then they'll just show up anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, happy birthday to her, and best of luck to you.
Yeah. But other than that, it's been fine. We had a nice big snowstorm up here, which I was kind of pushing for. Like, her age is like that perfect time to have a blizzard where you can run around and be dumb outside. And it was great, man. We like took a exercise pad that we have that she does gymnastics on, and we like jumped on that and slid down a hill in our yard and turned it into, like, I taught her what luge and toboggans are and stuff.
That's great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. How about you? How you doing?
We're doing pretty good. We had a very, very disappointing winter weather event.
As you do in Texas, yeah.
So it's weird because it's such a mixed emotion, because obviously last year it got very, very serious. I mean, people lost their lives. There were people without power for an entire week, if not longer. We couldn't use the tap water. Our tap water stopped running altogether. I've never seen that before. Yeah, it was that bad.
Oh, that's terrifying.
It wasn't just that the water wasn't safe because the, pumping stations and the sanitation plants and everything lost power.
Yeah.
But we literally lost like 98% of our water pressure. So the water wasn't even coming out. So we literally had to go. There was a local brewery that I had to go, that was, because they have these massive industrial water filters. So they were giving out free water, filtered water, to anybody that showed up with a container of whatever kind. So I just grabbed a couple of those big Gatorade, like, sports coolers with the little spigot at the bottom, and loaded up on like 10 gallons of water, and we were good. But not everybody had access to that.
Well, and toilet stuff can get real dicey when you're in a no water situation, man. Like, you gotta fill that tank, man.
Yeah,
especially
we filled
if you
up
get multiple people.
we had the foresight to fill up the bathtubs, so we got the water from the bathtub for that. But so then, of course, we get the announcement of a possible, serious frozen rain situation. Yeah. The schools are shut down for 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like, okay, everyone was clamoring. There was no bottled water at the grocery store, all that kind of stuff.
Oh my God.
So I was like, all right, I bought a bunch of firewood. I probably spent like $300 on just like firewood, pantry food, non-perishable food items that will store at room temperature, and water, as much, reasonably for as many people as I was taking care of. But, six giant jugs of water, and then like 2 of those like big 2.5 gallon fridge units. And almost nothing happened. Mm-hmm. It was like the biggest like disappointment as far as weather is concerned that I think I've ever experienced. Yeah. So it wasn't, because it wasn't even snow. It was like sleet that would freeze solid to the ground. So you couldn't even make a snowball. So yeah. So the kids were
still dangerous.
Crazy.
Yeah,
well,
that's
you
the
still
other thing, right?
You still can't go drive in it. So you're just stuck at home, and it's like, anyway.
Did the kids have to do remote school at all, or was it like straight up just off?
No, they shut it. They just shut it down for 2 days because it was just Thursday and Friday, and it's more for the safety of the commute, and none of the kids, everyone would have had to have brought their tablets home, or their Chromebooks or whatever they use, and I don't think they probably didn't have it set up in time. That was kind of disappointing. I did get a lot of gaming time in though, so that was fun. Cool. We've just been trying to finish off these protein bars and cans of tuna.
So that you can go out and buy them again next year.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's what this past week was like. So it was kind of silly. Which means I didn't really get to do as much shopping around as I would like. So I did buy a record.
Nice.
I got to my local today. I think a lot of people had the same idea that I had. They were like, all right, I've been stir crazy. It's Friday, it's Saturday. I want to go spend some money. And man, I feel like my local was just picked clean today. There was like nothing, but I did grab a copy of Breakfast in America by Supertramp.
That's a great album.
Kind of an understated classic. I think that they get a little bit of a bad rap for being kind of silly, I guess. But I legitimately love their music, and they're great musicians. But it's Supertramp. It's like people, there's certain bands. ZZ Top is one of them too, where they just somehow became sort of a joke along the way.
There's like some sort of punchline to it or whatever, but the substance is still there.
It's like if all you know of ZZ Top is Sharp Dressed Man, or you know what I mean, it's like, of course you're gonna think like that they're silly, Because look at the music video. It's a silly music video.
Yeah, it's some dudes with beards. Like,
Yeah.
what is even happening here? And their
So-
guitars are spinning in front of them,
Yes,
you know?
exactly. So I feel like Supertramp is kind of in that same boat where I think ELO kind of gets that very unfairly too. It's like everyone knows, Mr. Blue Sky, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so Supertramp for me is another mom band. Like, my mom was super into them.
Nice.
Into, like, 38 Special. Like, there's a bunch of those in that that she
Bad
was always
Company.
into the... Yeah, not as much Bad Company,
Not as
but
much.
yeah, but she liked the musicality of them and like kind of like the songwriting and arrangement of how they kind of approach things.
Yeah.
And I have an appreciation for it. They're another one. I put a thing on Twitter on our Retro Groove Twitter account this week because I was just thinking, like, ZZ Top came on the radio and I remember thinking that they were super lame when my dad was listening to them. I was like, "What? Why are you singing about TV dinners? This is so stupid." And I don't want my dad like air guitaring to a song about legs or tush, Like, this is the lamest thing I've ever heard. And now I'm like, oh man, they're pretty sick actually.
Yeah,
I came right back around.
There's also you can see, like there's those parts of the world where it's like one ocean meets another ocean and you can literally see the line between the two oceans. There is a very distinct line between 1970s ZZ Top and 1980s ZZ Top.
Yeah, that's true.
Even as a legitimate ZZ Top fan, I really can't listen to the 80s stuff.
Yeah.
I just can't. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, guys, it's so like,
Yeah.
it feels corny.
Yeah. Well, it kind of was. I mean, they changed what it was, and MTV catapulted them into a different stratosphere, and they weren't the
And who
band that
could
they were
blame them?
before that. Yeah.
You get bored playing bluesy rock for 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You do something
I would
new.
I would also guess, and I think we'll touch on this when we talk a little bit about Spotify and stuff in a little while, but I would also guess that there's something there in a recording contract and some sort of press that happens or a push that can go on when you get a new manager or a new deal or whatever it is, artists are subjected to a lot of mixed signals and muddy business dealings that can push them in directions that unfortunately compromises what they're trying to do a lot of the time. So,
Yeah.
could be that.
Could be. Could very well be.
So I did get to hit my local spot
Nice.
this past week. I was in the same kind of boat. There was a lot of bootlegs, but again, they were like Springsteen bootlegs and Stones bootlegs, and I was like, that's not what I'm looking for. And they're
Right.
like $60 because they're like OG bootlegs.
Yep.
But I did pick up. So I was there with a buddy of mine who's pretty keyed in on the like classic country, alt country scene.
Oh, nice.
And I was digging around and I came across an album that Willie Nelson did with Leon Russell. Leon Russell, obviously like icon who's worked with everyone from the Beatles and the Beach Boys onwards. But they apparently have been really great bros. I don't know this album very well. It's all over the place. They're doing some standard stuff. They're doing Danny Boy and, just like your normal kind of spread. But it's really cool from what I've heard of it so far. I'm excited to dig
Nice.
in. And then kind of along the lines of what I've talked about before about like artists that I may not necessarily want to see at this point and that I haven't seen live.
Right.
There was a Peter Gabriel live album. It was $7.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm never going to get to see him live. And if I do, I'm not really seeing Peter Gabriel live. So,
Right.
like, I might as well grab this. And it's pretty solid. Yeah. I mean, it's
Awesome.
You can tell it's a snapshot. It's not him doing his greatest hits, which is fine by me because it's a cool experience. But yeah, so it's cool. I haven't listened to the full thing yet. I just grabbed it the other day and I threw it on for a couple tracks, and it sounds really good.
What era is that
admittedly-
from? I'm not familiar with that particular like release. Like, when was that
like,
recorded?
I think it's after the fourth album. I'm gonna check. It's got Salisbury Hill on it, which I think is a little later.
So like
it's 83.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so admittedly, like, outside of that, a lot of the music stuff that's been going on in the house is actually stuff that we're watching on TV. Are you guys Olympics people at all?
I will watch the Winter Olympics.
Okay.
But I typically don't really bother with Summer Olympics. But for some reason, I get pretty captivated by the Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
Being from New England, and used to go skiing and snowboarding and stuff like that, and like always being fascinated with luge and bobsledding.
Yeah.
So that always interests me. So I'll usually try to catch like the like those events mainly. But I'll watch pretty much any Winter Olympic.
Yeah, and so those have kicked off. They're in full effect. My wife and daughter are glued to the screen with figure skating. And it's impressive, and I'm definitely, like, at least peripherally, if not sitting there and watching some of it. It's super impressive. It's kind of like the gymnastics.
Yeah, it's crazy
in the summer, like the stuff that they do. But I'm sitting there, and I just keep hearing Elton John song after Elton John song, and then it'll be like, it's either a Michael Jackson or a Jackson 5 or a Janet Jackson. It's like they're alternating between, and look, both the Elton John and the Jacksons are some of the biggest colossuses, the biggest juggernauts in pop. Yeah, pop
absolutely.
History. So I'm not super surprised. But, like, I was expecting maybe, like,
a little
Lady
bit more
Gaga,
variety,
or it's just like the fourth Elton John song. And granted, like one of them, the one I just heard the other day, was like Ellie Goulding singing your song. You know, it wasn't Elton John doing it; it was like an Elton John cover by Ellie Goulding. I'm like, wow, who chose that? Why are you doing that? I mean, I love Ellie Goulding, but it's really weird.
I wonder if there's ever any, like, artists or their management or whatever, like, paying for this to be the case.
Well,
because
I mean, you never know.
Think about how many people are going to be watching that event, and so, you know what I mean. That's too big of an opportunity for there not to be some money changing hands there. Or maybe I'm just too cynical.
No, I think you're spot on. It could definitely happen. I also think it's a payday for them too. There's syncs that need to go into that, like broadcast syncs that they get paid out for anything like that. So NBC is writing a check. So it's not a bad situation to be in. And then, we've been watching The Mandalorian. My wife... Oh,
God, yes.
My wife has never been a Star Wars person, but I think it's because she never really watched them. Like,
right.
When we started dating, she had never seen any of them. And so she watched them with me, but I don't think she was paying attention. Because, like, we've been watching a few of the old ones with my daughter, and all of a sudden, my wife is, like, enamored with the story of the original trilogy and is asking me all these, like, bare bones questions, and I'm like, you were placating me. You were just like playing it off because we were going out, and so you were like, yeah, sure, I'll watch Star Wars with you, bro. But that music, I mean, obviously the Star Wars music is legendary.
Absolutely.
But, like, it's cool to have, like, there's not like a theme song for The Mandalorian. There's like these running themes that come up.
Right.
But it is neat to have that epicness in a show that when something happens, when he, like, shoots down a TIE fighter at the last second, you hear the theme, like the crescendo of the orchestra comes back up, and you're like, you're feeling triumphant, and the music is bringing back the dun 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 theme that you're
emotional
used to.
tie-in. Yep.
But it's like the hook, and you're like, yeah, no, we're all singing the same song.
Yep.
We're all celebrating this thing, and we know the language. And I guess I'm not aware enough of other TV shows and whether that happens as much, but it's just so well done here, where it cues in on the emotions that you're going along with. So that like you're completely immersed in the story. It's so well done. Did you watch that stuff at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I was trying to think of another show that comes to mind, and it's just kind of like I can't even think of anything that's anywhere near to the same scale. You've got. I mean, just think of the Star Wars cinematic history, and then you've got this TV show, which is parallel in quality to...
It really is.
Which is an incredible feat all on its own. You know, I was like rolling my eyes when I first heard that, they're going to start, like putting out these little, TV miniseries. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, come on. Like, just, if Star Wars is going to die, just let it die gracefully. Don't do this to my Star Wars. And now it's like, this is more Star Wars than the movies that have been coming out. And I love them. There's been a lot of mixed reviews about the sequel trilogy. I love them. I legitimately love them. I have like no negative words to say about any of them. Not necessarily the case for the prequel trilogy, but that's a discussion for a different time. These are like just mind-blowingly good. The Mandalorian specifically, and I mean, and then the Book of Boba Fett. But you've got all that cinematic history, so you've got this like pool of just epic music that everybody that's watching this presumably knows, if not the vast majority of people. So you can pull on emotional cues and, flashbacks just musically that another show wouldn't have that because, there's not like the lore of like what is all of this based on. Yeah. So I don't think there's anything that even comes close in terms of a TV series.
No. But on the music side of it too, I mean, obviously John Williams, there's a lot to live up to with that kind of precedent set in that universe. And did you listen to Childish Gambino at all? Like on any of his older records?
Not pre-Awaken My Love, no.
He collaborated. I mean, on Awaken My Love, he also collaborated with Ludwig, but there's this composer-producer, Ludwig Göransson, and from 2010, I mean, like, he was in and worked on every single one of Donald Glover's albums as Childish Gambino. And so, like, I was familiar with the name, and then I start seeing that name pop up for Black Panther, for Star Wars.
Wow.
Like he's
a legit composer.
He's ingrained in everything now. So he's producing for Chance the Rapper, Adele, Alicia Keys.
Man.
But he's like doing compositions. He did the fanfare for Warner Brothers now, like their new just like standard fanfare.
Oh wow.
He does that, that like fanfare that comes up at the beginning of the Star Wars features now, where you see all those helmets and stuff like that flash by. He did that. Yeah, that's it. So he wrote that. That's
so crazy too, because that's just a mark of a genius, because if that's his original composition, he had to have studied so much Star Wars and John Williams music, because it just sounds like something that could have been playing during a Hoth ice battle sequence or
Yeah.
something. It's like, that's nuts. I didn't know that was a new composition.
Yeah, you should go down the Ludwig rabbit hole a little bit, because
Got a new rabbit hole to jump down.
Yeah, he's done so much stuff, dude. He did the Creed movies and then a bunch of other random stuff.
Wow.
But he got to know Donald through. He was doing original compositions for Community, so he's just like all over the place.
That's wild.
So definitely somebody to start to dig in on. But yeah, no, I'm loving it. My wife goes hardcore into stuff when she digs things, and so she went out and she bought Star Wars, like the child like sweatshirt. My daughter's got one, so they have like kind of matching-ish sweatshirts that they're wearing as we watch The Mandalorian. Awesome. It's adorable, but like,
that's great.
I'm sitting there like I've already watched it, so I already know the things that are kind of coming up, and I'm sitting there like, oh man, this is a blast!
This is gonna
like
be great.
Full family's in. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, so you want to dig in on a few things, and then we can talk some love songs.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got some news, and then we'll hit our on this day. You've got some news items here. Do you want to talk about some of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like the Spotify thing seems to be the biggest
big
glaring
right now,
spot in the music industry, and who knows at the time of this, like this keeps changing and developing and will continue to do so. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I feel like I have a few spicy hot takes on this that might. I don't know. I don't know how they'll all go over, but
that's all right.
Where's your head at initially on it? I'm interested. Yeah.
It's always, there's always going to be this line somewhere where things start to get dicey, right? When you've got freedom of speech. And obviously we know freedom of speech is extremely important. That First Amendment is one of the just absolute foundations of our society. But like, where do you draw the line where you have to take action when that speech is potentially has the potential to cause actual harm?
Well, and if you live in a capitalist society, like if we're functioning within a capitalist machine, then a boycott or some sort of monetary move is the way that you exact change in that machine. You know, like there's not like, if you disagree with something, then you have to find a way to make a financial impact on that organization. Right. It's the way to go. Yeah.
So, I'm not going to get into like, should Spotify have, removed, podcasts containing what some people consider to be, COVID misinformation. I don't know enough about it anyway to even know what Joe Rogan was talking about to, get himself into hot water. But I agree with you that, these artists should be able to make these kinds of decisions. And, it's as a platform, it's just something that I guess needs to be, I hate to use the word regulated, but I mean, it's not necessary. There's also that weird thing where it's like, is Twitter, like, does that count when it comes to like, if Twitter bans somebody, is that like infringing on their freedom of speech? You know what I mean? Like, to break it down to something that simple. And the answer is no, because you're not like throwing somebody in jail. You're just saying, oh, this is our platform that we've provided to you to utilize. And if you breach our terms of service, then we can remove you from the platform. We're not going to, you know what I mean? So I don't know what Joe Rogan's contract with Spotify looks like. They might be contractually obligated to keep him on. You know what I mean? Who knows? I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's definitely a weird situation when you've got, and then of course the younger generations like, oh, I didn't even know that Neil Young and Joni Mitchell are still alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which is
but
such a tasty take. Good job, guys.
Yeah, that's all right. Whippersnappers.
I mean, the interesting thing I think that always comes from this conversation, because it's not the first time that we've had some sort of Spotify controversy,
right?
And then you see the understandable flurry of posts where it's like, actually, while we're talking about Spotify, did you know that it's 0.03 cents or 0.003 cents or whatever that you get, each artist gets paid per stream, etc. And that seems to have been one of the bigger conversations that I think that I saw, at least on my feeds, take over from just the Joe Rogan conversation and the Neil Young conversation to it being like, why are we even using Spotify to begin with? If Spotify is doing this,
it
and
certainly
people are
dredged that back up.
Right. And so I think most of my takes come in that realm more so. Like, the Joe Rogan thing is going to be what it is. Like,
it's already kind of over. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, and also, like, if you're going to listen to him and you're going to take in what he's saying and believe it and just wholeheartely go with it without doing the research, then I don't know what else there is to do for you. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like a drug. I don't like it. If you're going to go use a bunch of drugs, then what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. What do you say?
So the interesting thing on the Spotify artist perspectives, though, are kind of twofold. One, all of the dialogue seems to be about, and I don't disagree, like, artists get paid nothing for their music to get streamed on Spotify. But that's the way that it's been since the beginning of the music industry. Not that that's acceptable,
right?
But
no, I know.
I think that to make it a commentary about one streaming platform, or just like the monetary obligations that a streaming platform should have, is tough, because there's all these machinations that have existed for decades that exploit artists and make it very hard for them to ever make money or recoup anything. It's a very manipulative business.
Right.
And like, to look at the fact that Spotify, like Sony and UMG and Warner, the three big labels, all own, like, they're shareholders in Spotify, and the reason that they got that equity, like a lot of ownership in that company, is to prevent them from suing. And in return, Spotify has gotten this like cushy prorated deal with all of them to be able to stream their content under the guise of the fact that Spotify hasn't been profitable. Right. And they use that to like say they can't pay the artists because they're not a profitable platform. So they're paying the labels. The labels get millions of dollars every year up front in advance, basically, of the expected streams and royalties that they're going to have to pay out. And then anything else is breakage, which is a great term that you go all the way back to the 60s when they're like pressing shellac records, like 50s and the 60s, where breakage was a real thing, where you like they made the artists pay up front for the inevitable breaking of 10 to 15% of their records in transit, you know, like lost or actual broken records. And breakage has just been a thing ever since, that artists have to pay out of pocket most of the time, or they lose out on stuff because of this gray area that they just call breakage. So breakage still exists. Artists have never gotten paid a fair rate. But also, like, and again, it depends on the kind of person that's listening to us talk about this every so often, so who knows. But I understand that the music industry was pretty gatekeepy from a consumer standpoint. Like if you went into a record store in the 80s or 90s with $30, you were walking out there with 2 or 3 albums if you were lucky, you know, unless you really like got that nice price, right? Like you were probably only getting like 2 or 3 albums. And from those purchases, the artists were seeing a few pennies a song,
right,
on each of those purchases. So already they weren't getting much money.
it's just
But then that
nuts.
was it. That was it. Like, I don't know how often when you were younger you had money to go to the record store, but I probably went once
Not
a
much.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably went once a month, but I definitely was spending $50 to $100 a month on CDs and stuff, probably, you know, and then like tickets on top of that. But mainly like, you know, I probably bought like 5 or 6 CDs a month. And again, that was like $14.99, $15.99.
Yep.
Do you spend that now? You know, like I know that you and I go and we'll buy vinyl records and stuff here or there, but we're not, you know, if you're paying for a subscription service to Spotify, it's $10, I think, right? Something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Apple comes with your phone sometimes, or is a bundled thing and you get Apple Music.
Well, I pay $15 a month for Apple Music, and then like I have like my daughter using it and like another family member using it. So
Right.
you know, that breaks up the cost a little bit, but it's still like when you put it that, I mean, there's not really like ever a time that I've been like, oh, I don't need to buy this because I can just listen to it on Apple Music. But that's me. You know what I mean?
That's most people do feel that way, I think, right? Like most
could
people
be.
aren't buying music anymore just from the numbers. Like they're not buying music, they're all streaming it. And people are paying between $10 and $15 a month. If you were to say that most consumers were back in the day paying $10 to $15 a month in commercial music, the industry would be in the same place that it's in right now. Back then, it wouldn't have been what it was back then, where you sold, you know, 2 million NSYNC CDs or whatever, right? Like,
Right.
people are complaining that artists don't get paid enough, but then they're not actually paying for the product. Like, they're not. You as a consumer, there is then an onus to say you need to fund the thing that you're complaining about. It is a fair point to say Spotify, Apple, Pandora, whatever, like any of those streaming platforms should be paying artists a fair rate. But then there needs to, that's like, you know, complaining that milk is too expensive. But then you look at it and it's like, well, the farmer's overhead now went up because the grain's too expensive. And the grain people is up because the pesticide is too expensive. Like, there's a whole chain of things going on here. Yeah. So it's kind of tough to pinpoint it on one place. And then again, when you look at the breakdown of how people get paid out through these kinds of things, the record label is sitting on so much of the money on all of this. They have gotten so creative since streaming took over in ways to monetize everything. The record labels don't lose. I mean,
it's like they're getting back at us
to.
for Napster. It's like
that's what it kind of feels like, right?
So, you know, a few things pop into my head. First of all, what is it about music as an art form that seems to make it so uniquely exploitable? Because look at, you know, okay, who's more famous? Friggin' Bruno Mars and Adele, and, you know, granted, we're talking about people that have plenty of money, but like, how much money are they making from the music that they created directly versus
Chris Pratt?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I was going to say Tom Cruise, but that's more current. So it's like you've got these actors and actresses and rightfully making tons of money. Sports athletes. NFL, because we're talking about, obviously there's always going to be in the middle when it comes to any, art form, sport, profession, whatever. But like at the top level, you've got NFL, NBA players making tens of millions of dollars, if not more. You've got actors and actresses making tens of millions of dollars per film. Mm-hmm. And they're like they're not even a huge portion of the creative process. They're a big part of but you're a player on a team that also has a coach and an overall strategy and all of that stuff. Or you're an actor in a film with a bunch of other actors, bunch of other crew, a script that you didn't even write most of the time. So it's like, but you're still part of the creative process. Or you've got a single artist, someone like Taylor Swift, or a band that's a small handful of people that are maybe with the help of a producer, literally creating everything that single artistic unit, whatever it is, an album or a song, and they get squat from the actual music. They have to sell merchandise and go on tour to make money, unless you're literally in the top 0.01% of the most famous musicians in the world. But even then, how much of their money is actually being made directly from their art?
Yeah, I mean, music is its own beast just by design, so there is that. It's interesting. I had never seen Inside Llewyn Davis, and it was on the other day, and I had it on because I've always kind of meant to see it. And there's this moment when he's. Have you seen the movie before?
No. Mm-mm.
It's about a folk artist, like a made up folk artist that's existing in like real time New York in the '60s, right before the folk explosion. And it's just like a snapshot of his life for a week. And he goes into a studio. He gets hired to perform with a group. He's just trying to make some cash, and it's Justin Timberlake who's like the artist in the room. And he sits down and he's learning the song. And he's kind of ragging on it because it's politically based and it's talking about like going to space and whatever. And he's like doesn't love the song. He thinks it's kind of corny. Uh-huh. And then at the end of the session, he goes up to the guy at the counter, like the business dude, and he's like, I want can I get my check? And the guy's like, well, do you want just a flat rate or do you want a cut of royalties or whatever? And the guy's like, well, Llewyn Davis is like, well, when would I see that money? He's like, it depends on how the song does,
Yeah.
You could get a little chunk in a week or two, and then like if the song does well, you'll get a bunch of checks, or I could just pay you like $80 now or whatever it was. And so he's like, oh, I'm going to take the money now.
Yeah.
And then spoiler alert, later on in the movie, the song does really well, and he hears it on the radio like a month or two later, and he's like, oh my god, like somebody makes a comment at a dinner party that he's at that is just like, man, this song's going to be a smash. Like, have you heard this thing? Mm-hmm. And he's sitting there and he's like, man, I took the wrong deal. So there are different options, and there always has been different options for artists. I'll point out that like your Apple Music and somebody else's Spotify or Amazon or Pandora or whatever, they all have the same content, we're not talking about Netflix. Like Netflix has to pay up front for either unique stuff that they now produce in-house because it's cheaper than licensing Harry Potter. They were spending all their money on these big things, and now they're like, we can do all this stuff in-house and make more money on it. But that's their content that doesn't go anywhere else. Right. Music is its own like huge plethora of a boutique industry. Every artist does in most situations now get to control their content. They write their own stuff. They're not working with songwriters unless they want to. Right. And because of that, like they have creative control, and then the accountability is almost on them. They get the advance from the label. They cut their check. They get a deal. It's up to them to whether or not they're going to take a deal that's going to give them a ton of promotion from a record label, or if they're going to go with an indie and just say, you know what, I'll take the extra cash and I believe in my art enough that it'll get out there and it doesn't need a machine to push it onto a CW show, you know?
Yeah, right.
It's a tough call. Artists are kind of on the front lines of that, whereas I think that in Hollywood, and again, that's definitely not my area of expertise, but my understanding on the Hollywood front is like those artists are for hire. You know, they get to choose the scripts that they work on, but they
don't own a piece of the movie, really.
Yeah, they can't. Once you're big enough, you can opt in.
Yeah,
it's the same thing as the Llewyn Davis deal. It's the Llewyn Davis deal where you take a little bit less, but you if you believe in the project enough, you do it for less because you think it's going to make more money on the back end, and it's worth it. Yeah,
it's just crazy to me. I mean, I think I've talked about this before, but that's just the way that the music industry is set up. That is like one of the main reasons why I dropped out of college. I was going to college for sound engineering and recording arts, and in like the first week in a straight up like music business 101, it was laid out very, very plainly and clearly the financials of everything and what happens with a new artist and, you know, having to recoup the advance and all this kind of craziness. And it's like, I didn't want to even like play music anymore. Or like, I was just like, like I just stopped making music for like a year and a half. It was like, that was why I went to begin with. 'Cause I loved making music. I loved recording music. And I wanted to do it. Like, that's what I wanted to do with my life. And just coming face to, like, you know, you have that adulthood moment where it's like, oh, this is not like Fantasyland. Like, it's not all peaches and roses and unicorns. This is a really brutal industry that treats the very creators of the art form that I most closely identified with like crap. Yeah. And it was so sobering. So it's like, but like, it's still like, I don't know if I'm ever going to wrap my head around that and why, you know, music itself as an art form seems to be like far and away. And maybe there's something else that I'm not thinking of, but it seems to be like by far the most exploitable art form.
There's
it's wild.
There's a great moment. I think I've mentioned this book once before, but there's a book by this guy Dan Charnas called The Big Payback, and it's this great storytelling of the history of hip hop. And there's this moment where Rick Rubin basically pivots from working on hip hop albums to going and working with Slayer and like just goes full tilt rock. And part of it is like he feels that the label doesn't have his back on putting out and prioritizing his records. They're leaving his stuff out to die. They're misrepresenting him. And he goes into the head of the label. I'm blanking on his name. But he goes into the head of the label's office to talk to him about it. And the guy is sitting at the desk with a baseball bat in his hand, ignoring frickin' Rick Rubin and just like slapping the baseball bat and like looking off at the wall. And Rick Rubin is recounting in this portion where he's just like near tears and he's all freaked out, and it's what you were talking about. He's like, he believed in this industry, he worked it, he built it himself, he's done this stuff, he has a vision, and now he's sitting face to face with this guy who like is breaking his heart and threatening him at the same time. But he has this one thing up his sleeve that he pulls out, and he's just like, you know, and if need be, then I guess I'll just have to walk, because, you know, I never signed the contract that Russell Simmons signed, like when they were doing their Def Jam thing together. And the guy stops and he's like, you didn't sign? And he's like, no, Russell signed it. I never signed the agreement. And the guy like calls his attorney like with Rick in the room and is told like in real time that is the case, and then all of a sudden has to negotiate with Rick Rubin and like pay attention and focus. And it's that, like, when, as you're talking about that, it's like that moment I think has happened for every single person who has stepped into the music industry before and been like, this, and it's soup to nuts. It's not just the record labels, it's the broadcasters, and it's the production teams, it's the agents and the venues. Like there isn't a support system there for you. There are really great people in that industry, all throughout it, but like it is built to make money, and it's making money on the backs of artists. The entire industry has always been built for that, and there was all this talk in the 2000s of burning it to the ground, and the streaming revolution was going to cause the record labels to have to change the way that they are, and then everything else would follow suit. And some things have changed, but like, it's the same thing. It's just in a different format. You know?
I feel like now it's almost worse for artists without the physical sales being there because of the subscription services.
Yeah.
But at the same time, not so much the streaming services, but I just think the internet itself has made it easier for artists to not need a label and
promotion.
And you can find out, you can Google, oh, I want to record a song. What do I need? Oh, I can download some free software to get started. You can go on any one of these platforms and you can buy the equipment that you need from someone that's selling their stuff. You can look up whatever you need to know. You can promote yourself. You can put your own music out there. You can press your own vinyl. You don't have to go with a label. It seems like these days vinyl sales are the only way that artists are making any money, or it did for a while before live music came back. But that's why I'm always quick if there's a band that I really, Supertramp isn't seeing any money from the $8 pre-owned, the probably owned by 17 other people before me record that I just bought. But the bands that are current and active that I care about, I'll buy their record either directly from them, like from their website, or from a platform like Bandcamp, where they're getting the majority. I know, Bandcamp takes their cut, but they're still getting the majority of their money for their own work through that platform. And even Bandcamp has like those Free Friday, whatever it's called, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, where the artist gets 100% rather than the normal, I think it's like 70% or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is great. Artists should be able to keep 70% of the sales of their, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like,
not 7%,
exact, or 0.7% or whatever it is when it comes to streaming. But so I always, at least personally, try to do that. But how many and I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else, I'm just saying how many people care about the artist to that degree, and is it enough to sustain? I mean, obviously there are bands that do it, you know what I mean? They're independent. They record their own stuff. Usually it's because now you can build a small recording studio in your house and get it to sound pretty darn good. You get your stuff pressed on vinyl and hit the road in a van.
Yeah. And
a lot of people do it, and they're not making amazing money, but they're at least able to live their dream, and a lot of that is because of the internet. They're not on the radio.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have been on the radio. They're only on the radio where, you've got public radio stations that try to play independent artists, and they're not out to try to make a profit and all of that. So I don't know. We could, we probably could have filled a whole episode up with this topic. I didn't think we would have been able to, but there's just so much. There's so much to talk about, and there's really no easy answers because I don't know. You can't just flip a switch and start paying the artists what it'd be nice. I'm sure we could, brainstorm a way to do it, but you can't get the millions of people connected to that web on board with flipping that switch at the same time, it's not going to happen.
Right,
So.
right. Why don't we hit our game? Why don't we do that before we flip it over and get and set the mood? You know?
Yeah, let's do that. We can. I need to pick me up. So
let's do it.
That's a good idea. We can
Yeah.
hit the on this day and the birthdays on side B. Let's try it that way. We're play it loosey goosey on this show. It's always been that way, and I like it that way. Okay, so as you heard, Liam, I did mine very last minute. Mm-hmm. So I felt good last time to do it all as a block rather than go back and forth. So why don't you go first?
Okay.
Because you were more prepared and you deserve to go first.
Well, and so mine does pretty much have a theme. I'll start it off with one. I'll say that of the 4 that I have here, only one has the name in it. You were kind enough in the DJs to give me a couple where it was like Jeffrey something, and I was like, okay, so that's Jazzy Jeff, right? Okay.
Well, most of the DJ names are like that. They try to sneak it in there, yeah. Yeah.
So only one of these, and the first one of these is the only one that has
any connection whatsoever.
Has a connection.
Okay.
But then they're all 4 of them are within the same kind of realm, so you can kind of start to think like, all right, well, I know the ballpark I'm already in, or the club venue or whatever. I can pull the thread
and I'll start to get
Yeah. Okay. So the first one is Henry Garfield.
Henry Garfield. Sounds like one of those former U.S. presidents that you can never remember the name of.
I think that James Garfield, was assassinated, yeah. Henry Garfield. You definitely, Garfield is such a, Dan, Retrologic, we've gone over this before, but Garfield is such a lame name. Sorry, shout-outs to the Garfields listening, but, this guy is so not that, To think that he could have gone through high school or middle school or whatever with the last name Garfield, and then you look at this guy and you're like, I don't mess with that guy.
But you're saying that there is a little bit of a name association here.
Oh, there's a full-on name association. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Garfield.
Henry Garfield.
I'm gonna take sort of a stab. Mm-hmm. Is it Fieldy from Korn, the bass player?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not Fieldy. It is a rock musician.
Okay.
But I'll say that Garfield is the lame part of the name, and so when you're a rock star, you're
so he dropped the Garfield. Okay.
Yeah, you ditch the Garfield. Yeah.
It's not Henry Rollins, is it?
It is.
It's Henry Rollins.
It's Henry Lawrence Garfield. Yeah.
Wow.
Henry Rollins. Yeah, I don't know what he looked like in middle school. Maybe he was a twerp and then he got really jacked, but I've been around that dude a couple times. You can't make fun of that guy, but Garfield is such a lame name. I don't know.
He's an intense dude.
Yeah, very intense. Yeah.
All right, so Doc, 5 points for that, so I got 20 points.
Yep. 20 points. And so now you know the pantheon that you're rolling in. Your reference point is Henry Rollins.
Okay, great.
James Osterberg.
I know I've heard that name.
Now this has, again, none of these, I really don't think that there's anything in these names that give a hint that I'm seeing, at least, unfortunately.
Osterberg.
James Osterberg.
I know I've heard the name before, but I've got nothing. I'm going to need a hint.
So, had a few albums with a band, and then went solo, and had some really solid success early solo career with a few breakthrough songs. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the band, but I don't think as a solo artist, which is weird to me. And again, like in the same vein as what Henry Rollins is.
Right. So Henry Rollins was first with Black Flag before Rollins
lead singer
band.
of Black Flag and lead singer of Rollins band.
So, was this person a solo artist first or a band member?
No, he was in
first?
a band first. He was in a band first.
Okay.
That at one point bore his stage namesake as part of the band name.
Oh.
And then he went off and just did it.
Iggy Pop. It's got to be
go.
Iggy. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking of other like sort of tough guy like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was what gave it away, was the fact that his name was in the group name. Okay.
So it was
Iggy
the Stooges, and then it was
Yep.
Iggy and the Stooges. But then when the Stooges reconnected and did those two albums in the 2000s, it was the Stooges again. It wasn't Iggy and the Stooges. So it's an interesting genesis there. Like the third album, I think, jumped to Iggy and the Stooges, and then there's a whole bunch of drama there.
Okay. So I think that was 5 points. Did I get docked on that, or 10 points?
Yeah, I think it. No, I think it was just 5 points.
Okay.
All right. So now we're running with the theme here. Jeffrey Hyman. Man, what a twerpy name, dude.
And why do I feel like I've heard that name before too?
Jeffrey Hyman. I mean, Iggy Pop, Henry Rollins, just iconic, badass, punk rocker, lead singers. Guys are killing it. Jeffrey Hyman.
I know that name, but I'm not making any connection. Definitely going to need a hint, but I'm going to kick myself.
So, the hint that I think I'll give on this is they're dead. They're all, with the exception of like kind of one, they're just all dead. They're all dead. Which is also the case pretty much with the Stooges too. The Stooges are, I think there's one original, other than Iggy, one original Stooge that's left alive. A lot of dead Stooges. But yeah, so this guy's dead. They're all dead.
Okay, so you saying it that way is, it jogged my memory and is hearkening back to a previous episode.
Yeah,
where
I think so.
We were talking about some musicians that are really getting up there in years, and the fact that all of these are dead. And
Yeah.
if memory serves, that was the Ramones that we were talking about. So Jeffrey, there was no Jeffrey Ramone. So I'm going.
No.
We're talking about frontmen here. So
Iggy
it
Pop,
has to
Henry
be.
Rollins.
It has to be Joey Ramone.
It's got to be Joey Ramone.
Is it?
It is.
Okay.
It's Joey Ramone.
See,
Yep.
the way that you said it was like almost exactly the way that you said it when you said all the Ramones are dead.
Yeah.
Or at least
dead.
I think the all the original members have passed. I
Yeah,
don't know.
Tommy's gone. Marky was there for Road to Ruin, which was, you could say, I mean, Rocket to Russia is really their big one, but Road to Ruin has Lobotomy and I Want to Be Sedated.
Yeah.
So there's like, Road to Ruin's a huge album, and so he was the drummer on a lot of those. So Marky's still with us. He's great. But again, I said half a Ramone, even though he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because
I
there's
just
like
can't keep
30
them
of them.
straight. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we joked about that last time too.
Yeah, there's so many Ramones. All right.
So what's that? Is that 20 points again?
Yeah, it's 20 points. Yeah, you asked for one hint.
You're giving good hints. Your hints are too good.
Yeah. Last one is John Ritchie. John Simon Ritchie.
Simon Ritchie.
I feel like the Simon it doesn't even really play into it at all. I don't know where he got this name from. John Ritchie.
Still running with the same general.
Oh yeah,
theme?
all four of them. Yeah, all four of them are like you know the pool to pull from for this is yeah.
That's not helping though yet.
I know, but there's only so many that have stage names in that anyway. You know, like.
No,
I mean, punk rock definitely has a bunch of stage names. But.
Yeah, it's true. No, I'm gonna need at least one hint. I'm not going anywhere with it.
So, part of the this one's the reason why I initially picked this one and like started this list because. My daughter heard somehow, I don't know where she heard it, must have been from my parents, heard the story of Romeo and Juliet. Okay. And it has like some of the basis stuff. And again, she's 6 and we're talking about like double suicide.
Yeah, it's heavy.
And I'm like, man, Mom, did we have to talk about like where did that come from? But it as I was making this list, we were talking about that, and as I was making this list, and I'm like, okay, well, I can start with that as a jumping point, and then go from like, can I build out 3 other punk rock leading men who have stage names? And I did. So we're starting with a Romeo and Juliet esque, or just like a famous tragic love story.
So. At first, I really didn't know where you were going with the Romeo and Juliet thing, and you lost me. But is it Sid Vicious?
It is.
It has
Vicious.
To be.
Yeah, you got it. Sid and Nancy, man.
Dude, you are giving these away with your.
Yeah, whatever. It's fun though.
It's for
whatever.
fun. It is for fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a straight 80 there.
Yeah, you got a straight 80.
Okay. See, and
that's
the theme.
B.
The theme is help. It is a solid B. Themes are helpful.
It gives you a pool to pull from. Yeah.
I stuck with a good theme, I think, last week. This week's theme is I was scrambling to try to think of any stage names that I could think of. So, and I have a backup too. So hopefully.
Okay.
Oh no, I don't need the backup because you just.
You don't need a backup. Okay. Yeah.
We have a backup for those listening. We have a backup because we obviously don't know what the other person's list is, or that would defeat the whole purpose of the game. So we have a backup in case we happen to pick the same person for our list. So I will save that for another day. Okay. There's no theme here.
Okay.
This one might be, so start with the one that I think is easiest first.
Okay.
Okay. Onika, Tanya, Mirage.
Onika, Mirage. Man, that is a heck of a name.
Yep.
Onika. Nicki Minaj.
Yes, it is Nicki Minaj.
Come on. There we go.
And I always thought that, like, as soon as I learned that this was, and this was, probably years ago, but like, how do you not just stick with Mirage?
Yeah, of
like,
course.
Nicki Mirage? That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's a reason, but
Minaj is a little more hip hop, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
It's
like a menage a trois. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Nicki Minaj. Okay. I'm struggling with this one's fun though, so I'm gonna go with it. We're gonna do this anyway.
Do it.
But this is somebody who does make music, is a musician and a singer, but when you hear this person's stage name, you wouldn't immediately think of their music. You would think of their other craft. I think Jeff Goldblum's name is Jeff Goldblum, probably.
It could be.
know.
That guy is a man of mystery, and his jazz albums are fantastic.
Oh, I've been meaning to. All right, that's another rabbit hole that I've been meaning to dive down.
Animal print suits, and jazz music. That guy is.
Have you watched his TV show? Oh my God, it's so good.
Is it
so good? It's on Disney Plus now because it's National Geographic, right? It's so good. Anyway, it is not Jeff Goldblum, but I will not count that as a hint or as a guess. Okay, so I'm giving you a freebie hint in that this is not someone who typically you would immediately think of their musical craft first.
Right.
And the name is Eric Marlon Bishop.
Eric Bishop. Eric Bishop seems like a common name. Eric Bishop, who are you? Who are you, Eric Bishop? That is an actor, but also a singer.
Yep.
But it's not someone like Usher, who was a singer first, and then he was in like The Faculty or Urban Legend or something like that.
I don't think so. I'm fairly certain this person was established as an actor first. Mm-hmm. But I could be wrong. There may be some early...
But is a musician, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Let me mull this over for a minute, because that is an interesting Venn diagram. There's not as much crossover as you think there might be between Hollywood to music. You have your J-Lo's, although I think she...
Well, she was a dancer first,
She was
right?
a dancer first.
Well, I mean, a singer as well, but
yeah.
Wasn't she a dancer on In Living Color? She was one of the In Living Color girls.
She was, yeah. I just don't think she recorded music before she did movies as an actress. Like,
well, she's a triple threat.
She really is, yeah.
Man,
Bishop.
I need to watch The Cell again. Do you remember that movie?
I have never seen the whole thing. The aesthetic of it is very cool, but yeah, it looks weird. But it also, like, after you've seen The Matrix and all that other stuff, it feels like I could probably figure it out now. Like, I feel like I could probably watch it and dig it.
Oh yeah, it's not.
It seemed very daunting.
It's not terribly cerebral. It's just beautiful and very strange.
Yeah. All right, Eric Bishop.
Sorry.
No, I'm gonna go for. I need a hint. I need something.
Okay. How do I... Oh, this is going to give it away. Dang it.
Give it away now.
How do I give a hint without giving it
TV
away?
or movie? Like, would be known for
movies.
Either? Mainly movies. Okay. And can I get a genre maybe? Does that give it away? Like a hip hop artist? It can't be country, right? Like, it's not country. You're not gonna
he's kind of like a Renaissance man. He
really
could probably do pretty much anything. He has a beautiful voice. This might kind of give it away, but
hold on. Movies and beautiful voice. Renaissance man. This feels like it should be easy then.
Kind of a Renaissance man. He did a movie and everyone was like, oh my God, he can sing. And it was actually him singing in the movie. Oh. And then they were like, oh, this guy can sing. And so that's when, like, him as a musician became more well known. And in the movie, he played a very famous musician.
He played a very famous musician. Okay. So I'm not good at movies. So I'm trying to think.
I thought that would just dead give it away.
I probably should, but I really stink at movies.
So he was in a movie where he...
Is it a biopic?
Yes.
He played an artist and he could sing. and he was in a biopic.
Mm-hmm. And not just sing, but play an instrument as well.
Man.
Need another hint?
Yeah, probably.
See, I thought that one was going to be the dead giveaway.
Yeah, I never watch movies. I like movies. If you go like music, books, video games, TV, like all of those happen before I'll sit for 2 hours and watch anything.
And fall asleep.
Can't do it. I just can't. It doesn't do it for me.
Yep, my energy level isn't. I will fall asleep. He has been in a Quentin Tarantino movie. He has been in a Quentin Tarantino movie. And that may not help you if you're not a movie guy.
I've never seen a Quentin Tarantino
Oh my God. But you would know still.
Not one Quentin Tarantino
But you're
movie.
plugged in enough to popular culture that you know like big names.
So there's John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson. Both of them are in one or two of his movies. Yeah.
He shared the bill in this movie, not the movie not the biopic, the Quentin Tarantino movie also stars Leo DiCaprio.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
No.
Isn't that the movie with Leo DiCaprio?
Not the only Quentin. Darn it. Okay. Hold on.
So wait, is the Leonardo DiCaprio? Oh my gosh, what's the one where he's the oh my God. I've seen Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic. I've seen him in The Great Gatsby.
All right, let me come up with another hint here.
Yeah, dude, movies wreck me.
See.
But he's like an actor in a thing. Like it should be. And he's got a stage name.
Yep. And I was actually surprised to learn that he did have a stage name.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a real name.
Could be. I'm trying to find another hint for you here.
Yeah, jeez.
Maybe, all right, albums. He did an album. Let's go over some of his music since you're not a movie guy.
He's had like a successful music career?
I mean, not nearly as much as his movie career.
Sure.
So he did a studio album in 2005 called Unpredictable. Mm-hmm. One of the singles features Kanye West.
Okay.
The title track Unpredictable features Ludacris.
Yeah.
He also has a song on the album featuring Twista.
I mean, so this is a hip hop guy. Well, but he's a singer. Jeez.
Is this a hip hop album?
I mean, that's crazy. Or it's an R&B album with a lot of hip hop features.
Because I think he's more like an R&B artist. He had an album in 2008 called Intuition. He's an R&B singer, really. His 2008 album features T.I., Lil Wayne, Neo, Kanye West, Fabulous, T-Pain, The Dream, Lil Kim, Timbaland. I mean, the guy's super famous. Like ultra, you are going to kick your own butt.
I'm sure.
And now I'm like struggling to find.
I have no context for movies at all, and now I'm trying to think like who that artist is that would have been.
So the big reveal is the biopic that he did, right? So he did.
I mean, so it's probably Jamie Foxx, but like Jamie Foxx. So that's Ray, right? Is the biopic. But Jamie Foxx was in a Quentin Tarantino movie?
Yes.
Is it Jamie Foxx?
It's Jamie Foxx.
Okay, cool.
So he was like the main character in Django Unchained.
Django Unchained with Christina Ricci.
Christina Ricci? Was she in that?
No, that's Black Snake Moan. I don't know anything, dude.
Okay, so what we have learned today, boys and girls,
5 points. Yeah,
is that Liam is not. He's a big Star Wars fan, but not a movie guy.
Oh, dude, I have seen no movies in my life.
Because
Again,
I've
never seen a Quentin Tarantino movie.
I thought Quentin Tarantino was good. Just saying the word Quentin Tarantino was going to be a huge reveal. That was going to be the giveaway, and instead it threw you a curveball.
Yeah, I'm like, and you're like Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm like, wow.
Oh, that was such a curveball.
I knew, because I remember recently that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I'm like, there's a lot of music in that. Okay, it's funny because when you said biopic, I am kicking myself for one main thing, and it's when you said biopic, like I went to Bohemian Rhapsody, and I was like, nah, that's that Rami guy, or whatever. Like, that's fine. Val Kilmer was Jim Morrison, not that dude, you know. And I thought of Ray, and I don't know why it didn't stick with me, because I was like, for some reason, I had it set that it was just like this rock person, and not like Eric. Eric
Marlon Bishop.
Jamie, really, Jamie? You're Eric? Okay, Eric Bishop.
Eric Marlon Bishop.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, he can sing for real.
All right. So I need to get
what was that? Like 3 hints, maybe? I'm trying to give you a score.
Give me 5 or 10. Whatever you're feeling. I was going to say if it's 5. Yeah. I think you gave me every hint you could ever come up with. But yeah, I feel like I need to get the next 2 right out of the park, or you got this game.
Let's see. 25, 10, so you'll be at 35, and I'm at 80.
Yeah, so I need a good 50 score to hit you.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
Okay.
I could pull a Gordon Sumner and just know it. You never know.
Well, you might. These are big artists.
Could happen.
Okay. And I think I did that kind of. I picked big artists. Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully you know this one. Catherine Elizabeth Hudson.
That is, Katy Perry.
It is Katy Perry. Yes. Okay.
Got it.
Home run. Okay.
There it is.
Great. Now this is a close game now, because now you've got 60. So you could actually, you only need 20 to tie. Mm-hmm. So if you know this one and you knock it out of the park without a single hint, then you win.
I'm feeling it.
Okay. Vincent Damon Fournier, Furnier, clearly like a French last name. Fournier. Vincent, I'm terrible with French. Damon is his middle name. Vincent Damon Fournier.
I do feel like I know this one.
And there's no theme here, totally random.
Right.
There's no connection to any of these prior artists.
I'll say, like, Katy Perry's name is Katy, you know, or Catherine. Catherine is in there.
Yes. There is absolutely no connection name-wise here. So it's not like Vinny something, or there's no connection. There's no association. Vincent Damon I guess it's Fournier. I don't know how to pronounce French things. Give me an Italian, Spanish word, any, Latin. I'm even pretty decent with pronouncing Portuguese, but I cannot wrap my tongue cannot wrap its brain around French.
I think I'm going to need a hint.
So the name Vincent, there's no name association, but the name Vincent is kind of a little bit spooky. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of a spooky guy. Been around a long time, but he's He's kind of spooky.
Well, there's a couple spooky guys. I don't know Alice Cooper's name, so he's in the mix here. Nick Cave is also pretty spooky sometimes. He seems like he could be French-Canadian in origin. Spooky. And you think Vincent is spooky because of Vincent Price?
Probably, but,
I'll give you that.
And Vincent from Final Fantasy VII is kind of a vampire character.
All right, I'm going with Alice Cooper.
It is Alice Cooper.
Yes.
So we have a tie game.
Tie game. Okay, great.
Sweet. Man, you knocked Katy Perry out of the park.
Yeah, that one
You
I knew.
needed that. You needed that. You needed at least one of those.
I feel like I know that one. Yeah, I did. That was a big one.
Okay, awesome. Well, that was a lot of fun. Thank you for suggesting doing that immediately after the depressing discussion about the horrible treatment of our beloved artists by the very industry that claims to support them.
I mean, we need an amuse-bouche before we talk about some love songs.
Yeah.
We do have to set the mood.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we are going to flip it over, and we're going to tackle, we'll probably really quick hit at least the birthdays, I think. I like, honoring people on their birthday. And then we will do a little love talk here. Let's talk about some love songs.
Nice.
Welcome back. You have made it all the way to side B on our 17th episode of Retro Groove. We have a few interesting little this day in music history tidbits to talk about, and we'll celebrate some birthdays. Then we'll get into our Valentine's Day Love Fest, our love song discussion. This is Valentine's weekend. This is going to go live on the 11th. So this will be things that happened in music history over the next few days. On February 11th, 1992, Motley Crue fired their singer Vince Neil when he turned up for rehearsal, claiming that he had lost his passion for the band and was now involved with racing cars.
Yeah. Motley Crue's a weird one. There's a thing going on now where they're in like a feud with Eddie Vedder, because Eddie Vedder was So Eddie Vedder was bombing on them for their antics in the '80s, and then Nikki Sixx has come out and said that he thinks that Eddie Vedder is unfair, but also Pearl Jam's the most boring band in rock history. And everyone on Twitter is like, hey, how about both of you shut up?
Right, yeah.
But also, it's also the most unsurprising thing ever. Like, Pearl Jam and that whole era of rock was the answer to what Motley Crue was doing.
They were the antithesis of the
They're supposed to hate
80s.
each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, there should be a celebrity death match between the two bands. Whatever.
Let them exchange barbs on Twitter, and then they can each go back to their yachts.
Exactly, yeah.
God. Anyway, So then February 11th, 2012, most of us remember, Whitney Houston was found in her Beverly Hilton hotel room, submerged in the bathtub. Paramedics arrived and found the singer unresponsive. She was pronounced dead at the hospital at 3:55 p.m. Local police said there were no obvious signs of criminal intent. So,
yeah. It's awful.
Gotta watch the what? And there, it's another celebrity musician drowning.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I mean, she had a history of drug abuse for sure. Like,
right, so that may have played a part.
There was a lot going on there, and yeah, I think
you can make that summation with the others that we've talked about. You know,
yeah,
jumping off of piers and boats and other things.
Exactly. Yeah, like you're not making the best life decisions then. But a bathtub that's rough.
So what we've learned is mind-altering substances and water do not mix.
Yeah, no, it suppresses certain bodily functions that you need to survive.
Yeah, so so what we've learned, kids, is if you're gonna get high, just stay out of the water.
This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs.
This is your brain on drugs in the pool,
in a bathtub,
or in a river, or in the bathtub, or in the harbor.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, sorry, that was a weird tangent. Man, this is a depressing Valentine's Day episode.
Valentine's Day can be that way.
It is. It can be. And it's, it is. It can be just like how, Christmas season can be really hard on some people.
Yeah.
So, this is just, this is art imitating life, I guess. February 12th, 2003, former Doors drummer John Densmore, we just had a Doors discussion episode not too long ago, took legal action against Doors members Ray Manzarek and Bobby Krieger for breach of contract, trademark infringement, and unfair competition. The band had reformed with ex-Cult singer Ian Astbury and former Police drummer Stuart Copeland. Densmore said, quote, "It shouldn't be called The Doors if it's someone other than Jim Morrison singing."
Yeah.
Which I can't disagree with that statement.
Yeah, I mean, if it was the three of them out doing something, I could stretch it and say with the right singer, like there was talks, as terrible as it feels, but there was this movement, and I think it was a real thing, where Stone Temple Pilots were going to have Chester Bennington from Linkin Park sit in, and I think it was going to be Stone Temple Pilots still, but like with Chester Bennington.
Well, they did a whole album, right?
I don't think they did.
Really?
Did they do a Stone Temple Pilots album with Chester?
I thought so, because
No, there's a.
Let me see.
Yeah, now we need to go to the videotape.
They did an album, didn't they? Or was it just one song?
It might have just been a song. But and then he died, so that's not great either. Man, this is
that
just,
band.
This is a whole lot of bummer. Yeah. Chester Bennington era. Personal new song, Out of Time.
Okay, so it was just one song. Because I was picturing an album cover, and it said Stone Temple Pilots with Chester Bennington, but it was just a single.
Oh no, it was an EP.
Oh, they did an EP.
Right.
Okay.
Stone Temple Pilots with Chester Bennington. Yeah, but it was still listed as Stone Temple Pilots. And you know what? I feel like, but again, when I was thinking of that, or when that was happening, I was fine with it. And granted, I'm not precious about Stone Temple Pilots, but like, I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, everybody else was in the band.
Oh, it does. It's very small, but it does say with Chester Bennington.
Yeah. And so I think like if you did that with the Doors,
that's 5 songs though.
If it was the Doors with Ian Astbury and it was the 3 original members plus him, I would have been fine with it.
Why not?
But look, they all have a claim to the copyright, and that's the way it is.
They do Queen and Adam Lambert. No one...
Yep.
I'm sure there's some people that are salty about that. But
I'm totally good with that.
Yeah, that's cool. Let it happen. But, don't leave out a founding member at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, there must have been some reason. I mean, they probably were like, hey, we're going to do this. And he was probably like, no, because it's not Jim Morrison. And they were like, well, then we'll find another drummer and do it anyway.
Yeah. I think they do stuff now. Robbie and him do stuff together after Ray died. So maybe it was something between him and Ray. Who knows, man? It's a complicated band.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think that was it. We're going to talk about some birthdays really quick. Interestingly enough, talking about the Doors. Oh, I missed a couple. So, February 13th, 2012, Adele won all 6 categories she was nominated for at that year's Grammy Awards. The British singer won Song of the Year for Rolling in the Deep. Also received Grammys for Best Pop Solo Performance for Someone Like You. Best Pop Vocal Album, Album of the Year for 21. And Best Short Form Music Video, I think, was one of the other ones. But she did the full royal flush. She took it all home.
Yeah, and that happens from time to time. That's one of the most memorable for me and one of the biggest ones. I mean, Billie Eilish, I feel like, had a pretty big run at one point. Taylor Swift did too. Like, there have been these juggernauts in pop music recently.
They just come and sweep all the categories.
Yeah, it's
shut
like take
everybody
all the
else
oxygen. Yeah, it's undeniable.
And it's usually deserved. In that case, it certainly was.
For sure.
And then last but not least, because I had to find something, and there was just very little of note for actual Valentine's Day, February 14th. But February 14th, 1986, this is so weird. Frank Zappa appeared on an episode of Miami Vice portraying a crime boss named Mr. Frankie.
So weird. So weird. I feel like Zappa, he would pop up in weird things. I remember watching the Monkees had a movie called Head, which was just a trip to begin with, and Zappa's in that at one point.
Oh, really?
Just like, what's happening here? Like,
so
what?
Strange. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll hit some birthdays real quick. So February 11th, 1941 is the date of birth for Sergio Mendes, Brazilian singer. Ask your parents, kids, they'll know who he is. February 11th, 1962, Sheryl Crow, U.S. singer-songwriter, who's going to be on the upcoming Lucius album. Pretty excited about that.
Oh, yeah.
She's a feature on one of the songs on that album.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, what's not to like about Sheryl Crow? I don't know. She's.
I don't know. I feel like she. I don't know. Maybe this is my perspective, and it's skewed. I feel like she gets slept on a little bit. I feel like because she had that pop commercial success, and then had a bunch of things that happened in the public eye with like Lance Armstrong and some like gossip Page 6-y stuff. That I feel like there's been weird. I don't know. I feel like she's such an established artist, but when you talk about women in the 90s who really kind of carried the torch, you talk about Alanis Morissette, who is also like totally deserved of that. I just don't think. I think maybe this is the wrong way to say it, but I feel like Sheryl Crow's music and image is a little more commodified in people's eyes than others, and I think she's a very genuine artist who writes fantastic songs.
I mean, listen to well, you can go back and listen to our discussion about all of the James Bond theme songs in our James Bond episode, but I strongly defended, and I absolutely love her contribution to that on Tomorrow Never Dies. It's a crap movie. It was not a good Bond
song.
movie.
Yeah.
But like, listen to her voice on that song. Yeah. Like, she is the real deal. Yeah. Absolute real deal. I love that song. February 11th, 1974, D'Angelo, R&B
No, you
singer.
put his legal name here
did.
in the show notes, and now we can't use that.
I should have used it today. I don't know why I did that.
Who is Michael Archer? Yeah.
It's D'Angelo. I love D'Angelo.
Yeah, he's awesome.
What a unique artist. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so cool. February 11th, 1977. Just talked about him on last episode. Mike Shinoda, guitar and vocals with Linkin Park. I forgot that he also played guitar as well.
Yeah. I think he does keys. He's a producer. I mean, he does a ton of stuff. He works behind the scenes a ton.
Multi-instrumental.
Yeah.
February 11th, 1979, as R&B singer Brandy. February 11th, 1981, Kelly Rowland. You know
Nice.
her from Destiny's Child. Do you think Kelly Rowland ever sees Beyonce on TV and is kind of like I should be up there with you?
No, I mean,
I don't know how that went down or anything.
no,
but
I think they're still good. I mean, she's the only other person who was in every iteration of Destiny's Child. It was always her and Kelly, and then a bunch of others.
Oh,
Michelle,
so they're tight. So
yeah.
they're good. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're good. And candidly, she was my crush. When I saw
you
Destiny's
mentioned
Child,
that.
yeah, Kelly was my girl. I was
You
like, oh
mentioned
my
that.
god, she's gorgeous. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all good. And it's so funny. We just talked about that lawsuit, February 12th. February 12th, 1939 is Ray Manzarek's birthday. So,
Man.
so they must really hate each other. It's we're going to file this lawsuit. Oh, your birthday's coming up. Let me do it on your birthday. Happy birthday. Here's a lawsuit.
Yeah.
I'm suing you. February 12th, 1952, Grammy Award-winning American singer and songwriter Michael McDonald. The one and only Michael McDonald. Well, probably one of the most unique voices out there.
Yeah.
Doobie Brothers, how can you, I don't know, just pause the podcast right now and then just go listen to What a Fool Believes and then come back. And that's my statement on Michael McDonald.
He's got what's the name of the song that he does with Patti LaBelle? It's a great duo. On My Own. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. There's it's a real guilty pleasure, Patti LaBelle and Michael McDonald.
It's not even a guilty pleasure. That's just a pleasure.
It's so good. Yeah.
February 13th, 1942, Peter Tork, Monkees.
Yeah. Rest in peace. We almost
peace,
I think they're no, we still got Mickey. I was gonna say I think they're all
Mickey.
dead.
Mm-hmm.
Still got Mickey. Hold on, Mickey.
Which is the one that refused to give you the autograph twice?
Nesmith. He just died.
Okay.
Yeah.
February 13th, 1950, Peter Gabriel.
Oh my gosh.
Began with Genesis and then cut out on his own.
1950?
1950.
Oh man, jeez.
Yep.
Okay, he's getting up there.
Yeah, he's getting up there. February 13th, 1956, Peter Hook, bassist and vocalist with Joy Division, and then went on to found New Order.
Sweet.
Love Peter Hook. We just talked about him. February 13th, 1961.
Hey.
Henry, was it? I forgot his real
Garfield.
Garfield. That's right. I was Garfield. Henry Garfield. Happy birthday, Henry Garfield.
Yeah.
Henry Rollins. I won't call him that to his face.
Don't do it.
February 14th, 1943, Maceo Parker, American funk, soul, jazz saxophone player.
Cool.
I actually used to listen to a lot. Went through this jazz phase. Listened to a lot of Maceo Parker, in college.
Yeah.
He's a great sax player.
Yeah, I feel like that he's definitely the kind of jazz artist that, if you find jazz at that college age, it's perfect. I had that with Herbie Hancock too, where I was like, oh yeah, that he has he had an album called Thrust that I just listened to a buttload in college because I was like, yeah, this is I'm living in the city and I'm a college kid and I'm listening to jazz.
I'm an adult.
Yeah.
For me, it was Maceo Parker and Dizzy Gillespie for some reason. I was like really, and Thelonious too a little bit, but yeah, for some reason those were the two. February 14th, 1972, Rob Thomas of Matchbox 20, you know who he is. Love him or hate him, Matchbox 20 exists. And happy birthday to you, sir. Probably a millionaire.
Oh, yeah. Smooth? I'm sure he got some sort of credits on Smooth. Like that just alone. But yeah, 3 huge albums. Like 3 legitimately huge albums. Massive hits. Yeah. They do it right.
I was hoping that we would get through this without talking about Smooth. But
dude, good for Santana, man. My wife and I were just having this conversation. For Santana. Have you heard this Elton John Dua Lipa song, right? Where it's like,
what? No.
So it's Dua Lipa and Elton John, and the hook is like a reimagining of Rocket Man, and it's a great tune. Like, and it's an Elton John song that has Dua Lipa on it, and she sings the hook, and it's her singing different words, but the hook is the melody to Rocket Man. I'm blanking on the name of the song, but we were driving around, it came on, and we were talking about how great it is, and my wife was like, how does that, like, why would that happen? Like, Elton John have an artist come on, like, why would they ever do that? And I'm like, because, like, it's this nice, like, coalescence of, like, bringing on people who are inspired by your music, the next generation to kind of blend with you. And she was like, she looked at me funny, and I was like, do you remember Michelle Branch, Rob Thomas, like Chad Kroeger? Like, they all did that with Santana when we were growing up. And she's like, oh yeah, okay, there's a lot of those. Like, Santana just, it made sense. He's like brought in all these people to do those things with songs with them, and they were fun pop songs. Yeah. Yep. Smooth was just played out. That's the problem.
That's right? What it is. Yeah, that is truly burned. What it is. I mean, it's a burned. Meme at this point. So
yeah. But it was so smooth, dude.
Yeah, it was. That is true. I was a big, when I started playing guitar, I started listening to Santana. I bought Santana CDs and stuff like that.
He's fantastic.
I love the dude. Yeah. I just don't want to hear that song ever again. That's all.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've heard it enough. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not making fun of it. I don't hate it. Yeah. I just don't need to hear it again. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, it's about to be Valentine's Day. Love is in the air, I guess. Or resentment, I guess. There's that too. I don't know. What memory? So I guess let me say it this way. When you think of Valentine's Day, Liam, what comes to your mind, and like what kind of emotions come up for you? Like, what does it mean for you?
Anxiety in elementary or like middle to high school, because you're just like, either you don't have a girlfriend, or you do and you don't know what to do about it, or like you have a crush on someone and you're like, is this the time to make my move? And the answer's no. And I was definitely and still am an emo kid. Like, just that is my music of the late 90s and 2000s, bleeding heart, alt singer-songwriter. And so Valentine's Day was always more like focusing on the sad stuff instead of like celebrating love, I guess. It was more just like, it was kind of bleak, I feel like. I don't know. And then now,
makes sense.
Like, we don't really do much for Valentine's Day. I mean, we acknowledge it, and now that we've got a daughter, like, it's a fun thing to like give each other candy and hugs, but like, I don't know. It doesn't, like, it's never been a big thing. And honestly, like, once you get a few years in, and if Valentine's Day isn't that important, then I get to the time, dude, like 2 or 3 years ago, I completely forgot about Valentine's Day. Oh, no. And I didn't know if I should feel that way. I'm like, I'm on the train home from work. I'm like, I didn't like get anything like, I should probably get flowers, right? Like, she doesn't care, but like, maybe I should still get flowers. And then I tried and I couldn't. And so I like, came home and I came home and I talked about it, and I was like, let's go out to dinner this week. And that's what we're going to do anyway. And that's fine. Like, so for me, to answer your question, like for me, it's more about the unrequited love and the self-reflection and maybe even self-loathing, or like of like wanting than like a celebration of the actual love. Because I feel like once you're in a relationship, you're not really. I don't know. I guess you listen to the love songs. I don't know.
Yeah,
love songs.
Of course you do.
Love songs are the bedrock of songwriting.
Absolutely.
Love songs are like the basis of almost everything in this industry. So,
absolutely true.
Yeah.
But I feel you. It's like if you wait until Valentine's Day to do something special for your significant other, then you're failing as a significant other, right?
Yeah.
So, I used to really just randomly, for no reason, just like, hey, like I love you, I'm thinking about you. I would send flowers to my wife at the time, and her coworkers would be like, "Oh, what did he do? Mm-hmm. What is he apologizing for? Like, you know what I mean?" And she was like, "Nothing. It was just a gesture." You know what I mean?
But if like the other 3 people in her office got flowers and she didn't, then there's like wait, what? Like, why didn't you get flowers? What's going on there?
There's that. I do have one funny Valentine's Day memory that I want to share. So, talking about elementary school, and I'm sure we all had a similar experience where, like, you make your Valentine's Day box and everyone brings their Valentines for the whole class. And, you had the boys would give out Ninja Turtles and Transformers, paper cutout Valentines, and
we still do that.
The girls would give out My Little Pony and Barbie or whatever. My dad worked in the semiconductor industry, and he was very much into whatever the latest technology is. We always had one of the whatever the newest computer was, we'd have that. So at a time before, this was like the late 80s. So at a time before most people had them, we actually had a printer. We had like a dot matrix printer.
Oh my God.
And we had this program, I think it was called like Print Shop or something like that, where you could make, and for those of you that are, younger than us and might not remember what a dot matrix printer was, but it was one continuous ream of paper, and it had like a margin on either side that had holes in it that would perforate it and you could tear it off, and that was what fed it through the printer.
It felt so good to tear those off, by the way.
So fun.
It was so fulfilling to tear along the perforated
I was
line.
always volunteering to tear off whenever my dad had a project he had to print a lot for. I would loved every minute of it. I would see how long I could get it to go before it tore.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had this program called Print Shop, and we used it to make we would print out like birthday banners and stuff like that. It was really cool, pretty ahead of its time. We messed with it, and we were able to print up custom-made Valentines that we printed out for my entire class.
Oh, man.
And my dad was like, "Okay, what do you want to put on the Valentine?" And I was like, I didn't know what to put on it. So my dad goes, he said, "Okay, so usually you want to start off with something like roses are red, violets are blue." And I just blurted out like, "Boogity boogity boo." So he was like, "All right."
Cool. Print it.
He printed it. And so all of my classmates that year got a custom printed Valentine from me in an envelope and everything that said roses are red, violets are blue, boogity boogity boo.
Amazing. I like that must have kind of been very confusing to people, because when they open the envelope and they're expecting the Ninja Turtles, and then they just see that gray printed text or whatever, and they don't have that at home, so some of them might not even know where that came. Like, how'd you get that, dude? Like CVS, they don't have that.
I got so many weird looks. It was.
Huh.
And I mean,
Walmart.
At that time, I thrived on being weird anyway. So,
sure.
I loved it. I ate it up. It was great. But yeah, kind of similar feelings about the holiday in general. But I do love me a good love song, and I also love me a good breakup song. Kind of a sucker for the breakup album thing.
Okay.
That was not invented by Taylor Swift. I know people like to, take digs at her for that kind of being her MO, but this was a very, very common theme throughout pop music history. And, go all the way back to You're So Vain, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure there's plenty prior to that too, but the FU song goes part and parcel with the I love you, as poetically as I could possibly put it into a 3.5 minute song.
Yeah.
So I thought we would at least list off our favorites. I know we talked about doing a top 5. I can never really rank these things when we do them.
Sure. Yeah.
So just talk about our favorites. And I would be shocked if we don't have at least one where we have the same song here. We have to have at least one same song.
It's possible. I mean, I would assume that you have something by a Beatle.
Yeah,
which
I have a Beatles song.
Is it a Beatles song or is it a song by a Beatle?
No, I have a full-blown Beatles song.
A full-blown Beatles song. Okay.
And I didn't want to double dip. I didn't want to do like a Beatles song and a McCartney song. So
I did not pick. I went Beach Boys instead of Beatles entirely.
So I guarantee you that we have the same song then, because
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't think so. Because I think
fun.
you have God Only Knows. And,
I do.
I went Surfer Girl. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So let's talk about those.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Yeah.
So why Surfer Girl over God Only Knows?
Surfer Girl was, it was something that resonated with me better when I was of the age that Brian kind of wrote this. It's one of the first songs that he wrote, even though I think it was on the third album or something like that. He wrote it when he was in his teens. It feels like I think I heard it before God Only Knows, but it definitely hit me more when I was a high schooler. It was simple enough. I grew up by the water. But also it's got the same melody as When You Wish Upon a Star. To the extent where I'm like, why wasn't it ever a copyright issue almost?
I never would have thought about that, but you're right.
It's almost the exact same melody. And obviously I grew up. Yeah. I grew up with that, but there's something so simple about having a crush on someone and dreaming about what it would be like to hang out and spend time with that person. God only knows you're in it, right? God only knows it's just I can't live without you. It's everything. You make me a better person. And Surfer Girl just spoke to me in a way where it was I'm hanging out in high school and a girl walks by me in the hall and I'm like, maybe she likes me. I don't know. I really like her. It hit me right.
Makes sense.
It was tough. Yeah, it was tough because I think there's a couple. There was a handful of, I guess, quote unquote older songs that I had picked initially, and I wanted to whittle down that to just one, and so that's basically where I went. I love "Stand by Me" by Benny King. I think I Love You, the Partridge Family song. I think that's a fun song too. Yeah, but I don't. Brian Wilson for me is. He's got so many. But yeah, that's the one that stuck for me. So why did you go God Only Knows?
Well, as far as I guess maybe, and I figured when you said that you were going with Surfer Girl, I was like, okay, there has to be a story behind this. It has to be more experiential. And I don't have necessarily an experiential connection to it, but like I will say it's probably the first song overall that popped into my head when I started thinking about this.
It's kind of undeniable like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of it's weirdly heartbreaking,
Yeah.
even though it's not like a heartbreak song. You know, so like I can't think of a song that evokes more emotion about like the potentiality of what he's talking about.
Yeah, there's desperation to it. There's like an urgency almost.
But it's like it's like, at least from what it sounds like, he already has her.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they're talking about like we're in love and this is amazing, but like what happens in the future? Mm-hmm. And what would have happened if we didn't meet? Like, where would I be now? Like, these are crazy, like, heady, and maybe that's why it connects with me a little bit more, because I feel like my brain works that way. Like, well, what about this? What about that? Well, what if this had never happened? Or what if that happened at a completely different time? Like, I go off on the alternate timeline rabbit hole. So that one just connected with me more, I think. But that's really, I mean, we could talk about that one song for quite a bit, but we have others to get to.
Yeah, it's one of the best Beach Boys songs ever written, for sure. Yeah. I mean,
I agree with that. So you didn't have a Beatles song.
I didn't have a Beatles song. So what's your Beatles song? Because I was sure that something was going to be on your list. I was like, that's one of the quintessential love songs. We just had a whole Beatles talk.
Am I that predictable, though? Like, that's disappointing if I'm that predictable.
Sure, yeah, I guess
that you've already guessed two of mine.
Sure wasn't like, I shouldn't say sure, but I was just like, as I was doing my kind of mental gymnastics and mining my heart for like what because you and I do the same thing where we try to find this balance about like, what are the quintessentials?
Yep.
But also like, that's kind of played, and maybe those don't necessarily speak to us, and there's not anything interesting to talk about. And also, like, there's other really good stuff, too, that maybe speaks to us more. And so there's, like, a balancing act there. But as I was kind of, like, digging around, being like, what did I miss? And I was like, man, Something is just such a great love song. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so good, but doesn't connect with me. So like again, like it's probably in the upper pantheon of greatest love songs ever actually written.
Yeah.
But so is Celine Dion's "My Heart Will Go On," and that's not on my list either. I don't have any Barry Manilow on my list.
Yeah, because I mean, come on, our lists there's going to be experiential reasons for it, but
yeah, exactly.
And we can acknowledge. Like, if granted, there's the whole tie-in with Titanic, but like, if a girl made a mixtape for me and that was on it, I'd be like, what? Like,
yeah, that's true.
I don't want to listen to this. You know what I mean? So it may have to do with just the era and how we grew up and our personal preferences, but but there's one on here that might surprise you, actually.
All right, so what's your Beatles? Let's do your Beatles.
So it is Something.
Oh, it is?
Yes, it is. That's
why
you
said it was a full-blown Beatle.
No, I said it was Beatles. It was the Beatles.
Oh, why do I think? Okay, then I'm totally wrong. For some reason I had it in my head that was a George solo song, and it's not. It's a Beatles song. So I had the right song, but I had it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense.
So I didn't think it was Something. Because I was like, okay, you said full-blown Beatles, and that's a George Harrison song. But it's a George Harrison song that he wrote for the Beatles. Sorry.
Yeah, he wrote it, but it's a Beatles song.
Yeah,
right,
it's a
right,
Beatles
right.
song. Yeah.
So...
Okay.
What can I say about it, really? I don't know. It hits me like it right in the heart. Like it's when I listen to those lyrics, it's like I think of times in my life and people that have been in my life. So it's like when that connection happens, that song really means something to you. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking about like, oh, who's he talking about? Like, who is George Harrison talking about when he's writing this? You know what I mean? I'm thinking about the people in my life that connect to that for me. And so number one, that's freaking bang on songwriting. That's like,
for real.
You know what I mean? But, you know, and it may not happen like that for everybody, but it certainly does for me. So that's, you know, we just had a whole Beatles discussion, so we don't need to go too much deeper into it. But that is that was a definite for me, and that may have been like the second one that popped into my head after God Only Knows.
After God Only Knows, okay.
So I'm kind of just going in order of what was in my head, not necessarily, you know, chronologically or anything like that.
Okay.
So you don't have a Beatles song. So what is something a little bit akin to that?
Well, it's not. My head next went to Stevie Wonder.
Oh, that's sweet.
I couldn't, like, there's a bunch. Obviously he has a bunch of styles and sounds and sides to him, but like his voice, his songwriting, piano, I mean, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, Isn't She Lovely? Like, there's great ones.
Yeah.
But Ribbon in the Sky is a song that I heard in college when I was working at a restaurant, and I had a girlfriend in college, and I was enamored with her, and I was working, and it came on, and I was like, man, I don't even know this Stevie song. It was like a single that he had written and released for a greatest hits. And I will note that Stevie Wonder is an artist who, by the time he was 30, had put out 20 albums. He had 12 Grammys. You want to talk about like Adele level, like Grammy wins? I don't think he had sweeps like her, but he had already pocketed 12 Grammys at the age of 30, which obviously Adele just put out her 30. But yeah, so Stevie's catalog is just incredible. But there's something about Ribbon in the Sky where it just feels, it felt like the possibilities were endless. Again, we're talking experiential, and it just spoke to me in a way where I was just like, again, I was in college. I was like, my life was kind of kicking off. I was independent. I was in love, and just, I could look up and just like feel like, I could feel destiny, and I could feel things. And I didn't wind up with that lady.
It never works out that way.
No, it was not who I ultimately wound up with, but it was a good relationship. It's fine. But yeah, I just, that song, whenever it comes on, and it's not, it's, you have to listen to like R&B radio or go seek it out. It's not like one of his huge things, but it's a beautiful song. And I feel like for me, I had to have Stevie Wonder on my list in some capacity, because he's just he's the Duke, he's the man.
Yep. And so you went Stevie Wonder. I ended up going Billie Holiday.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So I have a song on here that I don't think is really like one of her well-known ones, but it's a song called There Is No Greater Love. And there's something about her voice that's like that, just such like intense yearning.
It's disarming. Yeah.
Yeah. And combine that with with these lyrics, just like, my goodness, you're the sweetest thing I've ever known, and to think that you're mine alone. It's like, it just guts me. So
yeah.
I think Billie Holiday might have been like my first crush on a person that was no longer living.
I could hear that.
That's weird.
For sure.
Is that weird to say? When did she pass?
No, not at all. I mean, definitely before us. my roommate was a jazz major, and he was obsessed with Lester Young, Prez, like the sax player who was in a relationship with Billie Holiday, and like he would listen to their records together and then throw hers on, and that was the first time I ever heard her sing. And that was another moment where I was just like in my freshman dorm, and I was like, who is this person? And what is this voice? And oh my God, she, like I said, disarming. It just like
totally.
You've never heard a voice like that, and you will never hear an inflection and a presentation, and she's incredible. So
yeah, to the point
call.
that it makes me like some of these artists that you can tell that they're shooting for that kind of sound, and I'm just like, don't, no, pick somebody else to mimic. Like, no, like you're not gonna do it. Yeah. So that had to be on there for me. It's an awesome song. I would definitely recommend listening to it if you haven't heard it. I absolutely love it. Okay, what's your next?
So the rest of mine are going to lean a little more contemporary. This one, again, it's all experiential stuff for me. The next one, I'm sliding out of college. I'm going back to high school. And you and I are close in age, but I don't know if this hit. It was 97. So what grade would you have been in?
I was in high school. No, I graduated in 2000. So
so you were a freshman. Okay, so then you were probably ripe for this, because I feel like I was almost too young for this song, but it hit. And it's Casey and JoJo's All My Life. Like,
well, I know the song.
That song was like crack.
Like, it was everywhere.
It came out, and people were buying that CD. It was right around Valentine's Day. I remember 2 guys in middle school bought that album for their crush/girlfriends. And I was like I was like in 6th or 7th grade, and I didn't even know what was going on. But that song continues every wedding I'm at, it's the first dance song at a wedding I was at a few years ago. You know, like
it was at every high school dance.
Song. I mean, I love Jodeci, you know, and it was such a weird thing. Like, I wasn't up on my Jodeci. I knew Casey and JoJo first, and then later on went back and like realized that Casey and JoJo and Jodeci, they were the Joe and the C in Jodeci. Right. And like, I have an appreciation for them now because I was reintroduced to them in like 2016 or whatever their new stuff came out. But that song still gets played. It's gorgeous, and I just I feel like when I hear it, it's like Smooth. It got played out so hardcore. It was just everywhere, but it was on every mixtape, mix CD that was distributed in 1997 and 1998 from a girl to a boy or a boy to a girl or whatever. And
it's pretty universal. I also appreciated that it was G-rated. Or, you know what I mean? A lot of the R&B songs at the time were
Doing It Well and Red Light Special and like,
you know, Pony stuff like that. So so I do appreciate, you know, the relative family friendliness of it. But no, it's even at the time when I really didn't like R&B music, you know, at that time when it came out, I even like in my head, I'm like, all right, this is a good song though. Like, you know, I don't like listening to this kind of stuff, but this is a pretty good song. But so you got to acknowledge that. But yeah, that was the like slow dance song all across America. Every single school dance. That's a really, really solid pick. Seriously.
Yeah.
So I guess I've got 2 more here, and I'm gonna go a little bit out of order because I want to save the last one because it's a little bit of an oddball. But this is the one that I think you might be sort of surprised by, because we were talking about movie tie-in songs, and
is it a Jamie Foxx song?
No, it's not.
Okay.
But now what I want to do is go back and listen to those Jamie Foxx albums in the car. I'm 100% doing that this week. That's what I'm listening to this week.
He's a talented guy. Okay.
But it is Everything I Do for You, Bryan Adams.
Oh my gosh, Bryan Adams is the man. That's a great one.
I unabashedly and unironically love the crap out of that song.
It's a great song.
And like I know it gets like ragged on for being corny or whatever, but like it's so good. Like I literally found somebody said something, when someone says a sentence and they don't mean to, but it jogs
of course
the
like
lyrics to something in your head, right?
Yeah.
Someone says it's been a while and all you hear is it's been a while. So that happens all too often. But somebody said like it's worth trying. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Somebody said, I think they said like it's worth trying for or something like that. And I started just, but don't tell me. And it's like you gotta belt it out. And his voice is great. I love a raspy voice, either on a male or female, doesn't matter. I just love that sound, and it lends itself so well to this kind of like the ballad. I'm not normally one for ballads, but man, this song, like it's like a belter too. You like crank it up, and it was tied to a.
Yeah, what's the movie? I don't know the movie. What movie is it tied to?
In Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, right? With Kevin Costner.
Know nothing.
Oh, that's right. You don't know movies.
I gotta look this up.
So, and I remember seeing it as a kid. So, hold on, I've got to Google this now.
Oh yeah, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Yeah.
And this, it's so funny that movie gets so, and so I'm rambling now. That movie gets made fun of a lot, and in fact, it was kind of the impetus for Mel Brooks' Men in Tights. So it gets ragged on because Kevin Costner, it seems as though he didn't even try to do an English accent. So it's Robin Hood in England with everybody else doing their best, British accent or period British accent, whatever.
And he couldn't be bothered.
And he doesn't even, he's just like talking like Kevin Costner. Yeah.
See, this is going to be the big problem, though, Adam, is I enjoy Waterworld very much.
Oh, I love Waterworld, actually.
I have a movie
I legitimately love that movie.
I have a movie poster for The Postman, his other post-apocalyptic movie. Which Tom Petty, it's a 3.5-hour epic, by the way. And Tom Petty has a cameo in The Postman because he and Tom Petty were friends. And Tom Petty plays himself in the movie. It's fantastic. So not only do I have very limited knowledge on movies, but I have awful taste in actual movies. The ones that I do know is like Tom Green's Freddy Got Fingered. My movie. We've gotten 17 episodes in and finally discovered that my movie taste and experience is null. Yeah,
that's all right. Yeah, that's fine. It's just
the way it is.
It's just how it is, and
I'm living my truth.
I have to just come to grips with the fact that, I unironically love a song that's tied into a movie that was, it's kind of big when it came out, but then it kind of like, gets made fun of. No one, well, I shouldn't say no one, but this, I think, maybe it has to do with the movie tie-in, but I feel like the song gets kind of ridiculed. And I think that Bryan Adams kind of unfairly does so as well because that's like his kind of most well-known song.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
But all of that is unfair. Don't hate on an amazing amazing masterpiece of a song just because Kevin Costner can't do a British accent. And that's all I have to say about that. I rest my case.
I'm just so interested. I'm going to find my rabbit hole as to why that happened. Like, we don't have that anymore, really. The soundtrack thing, the pop songwriter.
Right.
I mean, Black Panther did have that. There was a Kendrick and the Weeknd song. It occasionally happens, but like, we don't have
that
the thing
slaps.
that we don't have the thing anymore that you and I had growing up of these songs. I posted something on Twitter the other day about the Gin Blossoms, where like Empire Records was a commercial flop, but like Till I Hear It From You is what is their biggest song.
By far.
I mean, people know Hey Jealousy, but like chart wise, it's their biggest song. So I get two more, right? And both of them are fairly contemporary. I'm going to go to my darkest place, I think, next. Because I think that love and love songs do kind of make you think about the fact that, like, even if you're happy in love, and even if love is, like, the purpose that you're doing things and is inspiring you or whatever, like, it's going to end. Like, for a multitude of reasons, it has to end. And I thought about that. So Jason Isbell did this great song called "If We Were Vampires," and it's gorgeous. And I thought I was going to go with that, and then I pulled an Audible today, and I yanked it, and I'm going with "I Will Follow You Into the Dark" by Death Cab for Cutie, which is probably like one of the most heart-wrenching songs of all time. But like, it applies to so many different things. Like, it could be a significant other, it could be a family member, it could be whatever, but it is like, there is no other like devotion of love other than just like the bleakness that is attached with that kind of connection you have with somebody. I'm gonna get choked up here talking about it.
Well,
watch
it is
the music video.
Oh God! Like, I'm not even a big fan of. I mean, I like the stuff. I don't own any Death Cab records. Not that I wouldn't. I'm not a huge fan, but God, that song is excavating.
Yeah, he really nailed it. That whole album is gorgeous, and it's just like the pinnacle of their pinnacle album. But yeah, it's gut wrenching. And again, that was like in college, and I was losing most of my grandparents within like a window of time. So there was that playing in, and like, again, my first like long-term relationship, and like, the dichotomy of that, like, of love and loss all happening in like a 19, 20-year-old boy is like brutal, dude. So yeah, that there's a dark side to it all, and I'm going with that one.
Well, thankfully, that all happened to you at a time where we had some great emo music.
That's right.
To get you through it.
That's right.
We did. So we're on to my last one, and I almost didn't go with this one, but ultimately, I was like, no, I decided that I wanted this to be in my top 5, so it's going to stay there. I don't care what anybody else thinks. So
do it.
It's actually Everlong by Foo Fighters.
Oh.
And so if you're hearing this and you're like, what? Pause the podcast and go listen to the acoustic version.
Yeah.
And you'll hear the love song.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, it's there.
It's a driving rock song, so it's hidden, but it's a love song with some really poignant and interesting lyrics.
But the original version gives it teeth, kind of. It's like it gives it that passion.
It does. I just think if you had any doubt that it's a love song. Yeah. No, I agree with you completely, and I obviously I strongly prefer the original for a number of reasons, but and I thought that was really cool. You don't really usually the love song, quote unquote, on the album is the ballad, or at least a slower, more sultry or more, at least slowed down tempo wise. But this is like, it's got a really fast tempo, a really, not erratic, but like just a very, very rhythmic driving drum beat. And, it's one of probably in my top 3 favorite Foo Fighters songs. And it doesn't really hit like other love songs do because of that. It's just different. I can't like off the top of my head, at least, I was trying to think earlier too, and I couldn't think of any, but I can't think of any like straight up love songs that are, fast paced and driving like that. They're typically more subdued.
But when you first heard that song, and obviously you don't have to name names, but like when you first heard that song, was there someone where you were like, this is how I feel about this person, because that's the thing, is like you hear this, you put yourself in the situation, and you're just like, or you do the thing where you're like, man, someday I'm gonna feel that way about someone.
Yeah, I think it was more that. It was more like, if anything could ever feel this real forever, like I would ruminate on that quite a bit.
I just want that.
Yeah.
Can I have that? Yeah.
And so it was more that than it was like, oh, I'm thinking about this person. So, but yeah. And again, the running theme here, at least kind of with mine, is other than like the simplicity of everything I do it for you, is, a lot of these are kind of a little bit more abstract, a little bit more focused on like the unknown and the dichotomy of love and potential loss and fear of loss and stuff like that. So, but I don't know what else I would have put in its place, but I'm glad that I went with it ultimately and didn't chicken out.
Yeah, this isn't a Michael Bublé podcast, and neither of us picked "She Will Be Loved" by Maroon 5. That's not what's happening here. No disrespect, good job, Maroon 5. So then my last one, I'm not straying too far from the era of Death Cab, but I went with "First Day of My Life" by Bright Eyes. Bright Eyes was a band, an artist. Connor Oberst and Bright Eyes are an artist that I did not have an appreciation for high school into college. I could not appreciate his songwriting because of his voice. And my girlfriend, now wife, had she really liked him, sent me some songs. This one was one where I was like, there's a line in it where he says, "I'm glad I didn't die before I met you." And I'm like,
damn.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. I've got that feeling right now. That's interesting. And so, he's not the strongest singer, but then once I connected with this song and the album that it was on, I was able to then appreciate his musicality, I guess, because of the songwriting and the sort of like folk kind of imperfections that exist in his writing. And then it opened for me. And then I feel like a lot of other things opened for me. Like, it was a love song that has a strong history with my current relationship, my current marriage, but also just, I feel like, allowed me to see music and see love songs and see songwriting and appreciate it in ways that weren't just palatable pop or, weird alt for the sake of being weird and alt.
Yeah, for the sake of being weird.
Yeah, like it hit the right notes. It was like it's such an interesting gateway drug, and it also just reaffirmed a feeling that I was having at the time. So yeah, it's gorgeous. I can still listen to it to this day. I'm sure I've heard it 100 times now, and if it comes on the radio, I'll keep it on because it doesn't come on the radio that much, but it's gorgeous.
So is that like, and people may or may not even have these, but so would you say, or maybe I should word it this way, would your wife say that is like your song as a couple?
Kind of.
Because that's a cool thing to have, I feel like.
Yeah. We didn't dance to it at our wedding. We actually danced to a Glenn Hansard song, which is Falling Slowly, which was on like the Once movie and soundtrack, and it was like swell season. But like, it was something that we really loved at the time, and also I remember like we went back over the lyrics and we were like, this is kind of a breakup song, which I think dovetails into our last part here a little bit. But we danced at our wedding. I don't regret it. It's a beautiful song. I just wouldn't put it as a love song, except when it's a love song knowing that a relationship is falling apart and you're just doing the best to right the ship, but you know that it's probably going to sink. Not a great song to kick off your wedding with, but for us it meant a lot at the time. But yeah, so I would say if we were both like on the, what was it, the wedding game or do you know your spouse game, whatever that classic thing is, like, and we had to write the thing down on the best chance is that we would both write that song. Yes. Yeah. First day of my life.
Awesome.
So let's talk a little bit about breakup songs.
Yeah, let's hit it real quick. I don't want to focus too much on it. We're pretty long on time as well, but it definitely is a big part of songwriting in pop culture, and as well as the day that we're kind of focusing on here. But the breakup song or the FU song or whatever you want to call it, or just the let me talk about what a terrible person my ex is. They can be very, very cathartic, and that can actually be like, very healing to express it that way. So I've kind of gone back and forth on a few of these. So I think though that if I had to pick one that I keep going back to, and it's another one that I kind of thought, okay, like I'm gonna like admit this and release it into the world for potentially hundreds of listeners.
Be vulnerable.
Is "Don't Speak" by No Doubt.
Oh my gosh, so good.
I was a huge No Doubt fan. That was one of the first concerts that I ever went to.
Yeah.
And when they toured with Weezer back in, I want to say it was 96, 97. Weezer was touring for Pinkerton and No Doubt was still touring for Tragic Kingdom. And, man, and even if you, because I don't know if I knew like the backstory that like, who she's singing about is in the band with her
Tony,
still.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think I knew that at the time, but like, you listen to that song and it's like, oh man, someone broke her heart, you know what I mean? And I was a really, really big fan, and that song, it was everywhere. And so that kind of made me like feel like I had to hide the fact that I loved it so much and that it kind of resonated with me so much. And I don't even quite know why it resonated with me so much at that age. But just because of my history with it, I have to go with that song.
Do you have other, because you had mentioned the sort of, and I guess that this is in that vein too, right? The FU like burn song, because I don't have any of those. Do you have any others that you like? What else were you considering alongside of that? Was there any others that had come to mind in that same vein?
Not so much in the like just full on FU mode kind of song.
It's not like Carrie Underwood when he cheats or before he cheats or whatever.
No,
that's not okay.
So I was thinking about Fleetwood Mac. I was thinking about Go Your Own Way.
Oh, yeah.
The only other one that I
good one.
really thought of, but then I was like, I mean, it doesn't really connect with me necessarily, but I think one that's a little bit more modern and is kind of potent recently, and I love it more so for Kimbra's verse than the actual artist, but Gautier, someone that I used to know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That song kind of comes up in my mind a lot because it was everywhere. That song was just massive when it came out, when it was popular. But it was my first introduction to Kimbra, which I'm grateful for, and but it's just a really like. The lyrics are so like literal, and
it's pretty raw.
I feel like you don't hear that a whole lot, but not like like you broke my heart and blah blah blah. It's more like it's the literal like and the starkness of it. Like do you sent your friends to come pick up your stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
literally.
yeah.
So. I do appreciate that, and it's. I mean, you have to admit it's a catchy song, and it makes you wonder like, oh, what happened? Like what what's the backstory behind that? That sounds like a nasty breakup, and it's interesting.
It obviously resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's also interesting because I feel like there's. It's not just like one-sided. You can kind of hear like, like you didn't have to do that, but like I wasn't necessarily the best for you either. You know what I mean? Like, so that was also something relatively unique. You don't typically hear that angle either. So I think it deserves recognition for that.
Yeah. So then for me, I got kind of two different things I want to just touch on real quick. One is just like a more hyper personal thing. Again, emo kid and me, like
go for it.
Dashboard Confessional was like a defining artist for me. I think I've mentioned it before, where it's like I heard his music in high school. I had started to learn the guitar, and I was like, it was okay to write vulnerable songs about being sad and whatever. But he had this song that it didn't resonate with me at the time. And then once you've gone through a relationship that doesn't violently end, it just kind of, it fizzles out, and you're trying to figure out what happens as it's fizzling. Like, is this dead or not? He's got this song called Again I Go Unnoticed. And again, in 10th grade, it meant nothing to me. Yeah, it was like a weird song amongst everything else that was resonating. And now I listen to it, and it's just like the television is stealing the conversation, and like just sitting there, not engaging with each other. Like, you can feel that the relationship had its moment and is falling apart.
Yeah.
And complacency has set in, and yet no one's doing anything about it. And it went from this whatever song that I knew how to play on guitar but meant nothing to something where I'm like, oh no, I lived through that. I've seen that. I felt that. And it is brutal. Like, it is because it is like sometimes a terrible, awful breakup is so much better because then it's just done. Then it's like, you know where you
There's
stand
some finality.
And it's over. Yeah. Whereas like when both people are kind of complacent and something falls apart and everyone, like, maybe it was just comfort or maybe
it's
it
like,
just
what
wasn't
are we
right
doing
pairing.
here?
Yeah, like, there's no blame, and it's tough. So that song screamed to me. But the other thing that I wanted to hit on, and I think it speaks to, again, we said the love song category is very broad.
Yeah.
And it can be very confusing because a love song can have a genesis from different things and can then be reinterpreted, as all art is, in a different way. And so there were two songs that I wanted to flag that I feel like I have 1,000,000% heard as wedding songs or at weddings, and they are definitely breakup songs.
Yes.
But
I know what you're talking about.
They're not like framed as breakup songs. So Edwin McCain's "I'll Be," right, is like the quintessential Dawson's Creek song from the 90s and 2000s. Again, like Creek. Right there with Casey and JoJo. But like, that is a breakup song. That is a song where he has gotten out of the relationship and he's like looking back on it and he's saying like, I am still a fan of yours and I promise that I'm going to be better in the future, but I know that this is over.
Yeah.
But like, him making that statement is being framed as like, I'll be your champion in this relationship, when that's not what that's not. If you read into the song, that's, he said it on record, it's not what the song's about. The song is post breakup, like looking back and trying to be a better person after a relationship. Mm-hmm. But then the big one is "I Will Always Love You."
Well,
which
yeah,
is a breakup song. It's 1,000,000% a breakup song. It was penned by Dolly Parton in one night, which is like another one. It's another one of those things where it's just like sometimes things just strike. She was going through this like really difficult situation where she had been a writing partner and a TV partner with Porter Wagner, and like knew that she needed to move on from that working relationship. And so she like told him that, and like they got into it a bit, and he said that she was making a mistake, and she went home and wrote that song and brought it. The story goes that she brought it back to him that next day.
Oh my God.
She sang it to him. He cried and was like, I understand, you need to go. Let me produce this album, though. and he did.
Dang.
And so it's a Dolly Parton song. And then full circle to your movie shout out, because I know this one. Never seen it, but
I've never
Bodyguard.
seen it either.
Is that Kevin Costner too? Is
oh
Kevin
my
Costner
God,
in The
I think
Bodyguard?
it is.
Didn't plan this at all.
Okay, so this is no longer our Valentine's Day episode. This is our Kevin Costner tie-in episode.
Yeah. So I mean, the Whitney Houston version is the definitive version that everyone knows, and it gets played at every wedding, and it's a breakup song. It's not. I mean, like, you can hear it however you want, and you can take art however you want to interpret it, and that is totally valid and fine. That's what it's there for. But it showcases how confusing love can be when this was a working relationship, not a romantic relationship, and it was a breakup, not a fostered relationship necessarily. Mm-hmm. So very complicated emotion, this love.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, where it was more of a professional relationship thing and not necessarily a romantic relationship. I don't know the backstory there on that one, but one of the songs that I thought I was going to go with, I went back through the lyrics and I was like, oh, you know what? This probably isn't a breakup song. This sounds more like a hometown friend that like you'll never see again. And it was Holiday by the Get Up Kids.
Oh man, that's a great one.
Bringing it back to the emo era thing. But this is one of my favorite songs. I wasn't like super into a lot of that, but I was very much into the Get Up Kids, and that song in particular just like really, really hit me then, and it still hits me now. But you know, when you actually kind of read through the lyrics, it kind of sounds like he's talking about, or could very easily be talking about, either a family member that he may not be in touch with anymore, or just, you know, anybody that you're close with, that eventually, you know, what's he say? You know, I know you'd think my life would stop when you were away. And it's like, you know, everyone has that, or most people, I would think, have that experience of eventually eventually you grow up and you don't really have the same circle of people that you did when you grew up, for whether you move away, you go to college, whatever it is. And so that speaks to that. So I think it's cool. You can have songs like that where, you know, it's not necessarily a love song, but it kind of evokes very, very similar emotions about a relationship that is very emotional one way or the other, even if it's not a romantic one. So, yeah. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Well, full transparency. All My Life by Casey and JoJo, he wrote it for his kid. Like that, he's singing about his daughter. So so take it, put that lens on that song, and it seems totally different. But again, I think it's a love song. It feels like a love song. It's interpreted as a love song for a romantic partner, and that's fine. But again, like just to put a cap on what you were just saying, like it could be anything, but he intended it, or as he composed it, it's dedicated to his daughter. I think it was Casey's daughter.
Well, that's very sweet and a nice way to wrap things up. But again, to punctuate the point that, you know, a good songwriter will, just like how a good author will give you, you know, this world to play in, and your mind and your experiences fill in the gaps. And a great song, you'll feel that experientially, maybe very, very differently from somebody else, but you're hearing the same lyrics, and nothing about what you're hearing is different, but you're interpreting it and lining it up with emotional moments in your own life very, very differently. So that is the beauty and the wonder of music, and that's love in a nutshell, folks. It's complicated. There's a reason why it's complicated is a relationship status on Facebook. I don't know if it still is. It used to be. But this was a good episode.
Thanks for whoever stuck it out. This is a long one.
It's a long one. They've been getting longer, so I don't know. I don't know what, but I think we're both kind of the mind that let's just, you know, let's let it happen. And if people don't want to listen, they can stop. It's fine.
Yep.
Like,
that's cool.
You've already downloaded the whole thing, so it's not like if you're not enjoying it, stop. If you're enjoying it, keep listening. Or put it on, you know, chipmunk mode, and you can listen to it a lot faster.
And follow us on Twitter.
Yes, we have a Twitter account. It's dope. We're both posting content
at RetroGroove _pod, right?
Yes.
At RetroGroove _pod, and then Instagram is just at RetroGroove.
Let me look up what the I should know these off the top of my head, but RetroGroove _podcast.
Podcast. Yeah, it's RetroGroove _podcast on Instagram.
Pretty good content. We put out some good stuff. Twitter is
just having fun over there.
Twitter is way more fun than I thought it would be, and it's much easier content wise than, you know, getting an image up on Instagram all the time. So you need to work harder on the Instagram thing. But Twitter is a lot of fun. Also feel like it's a lot easier to interact and share stuff. So
exactly.
Come hang out. Also, we are on Discord. We are part of the RetroLogic Discord, so you can look up RetroLogic and the Retro Groove podcast segment of that. We have a listening to section as well as a general Retro Groove channel. You can chat with us there if you so desire. But you know, we appreciate all of our listeners. I know just learned recently that we have quite a few listeners in Brazil. I don't know how y'all found us, but obrigado, thank you for listening, and hope you're enjoying the podcast wherever you are. Thanks for listening to Retro Groove. We are part of the RetroLogic network. Check out the website, retrologic.games, for social links, merchandise, community, and more. And hope you have a lovely Valentine's Day, whatever it is that you do. and have a great weekend.